the seagulls follow the shore, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the buzz and they left the buzz in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed Friday night again. So, of course, you all know what that means. It's time for a Bustalgia time travelling here on the Boise Bus. We bit a different format to tonight's show. It's a bit of a part two, essentially, to one that we've done already, because the new year Celtic Rangers fixture, we did our Skelpers edition, where we talked about some great players who've had moments of notoriety, shall we say, through the years in this particular fixture. Tonight we're going to be follow on of that. Tonight we're going to do Ange Postecoglou a favour. We're going to jump in the time travelling bus. We're going to go through time. We're going to get the best possible 11 for him to use against this mob. A team made up of Skelpers who have had those great moments. Iconic, iconic moments, goals, great performances, remarkable consistency against them, or maybe it's just a case of they're just really good at being shithouses against them. Whatever it gets them qualify for this team, we'll find a way. But yeah, tonight we'll be relying on obviously yourselves to get involved in the comments. Give us your suggestions of who you think will make it into a Skelpers 11, and just of course be aware that the word that goes in front of Skelpers, just try and be moderate in your use of it, because for obvious reasons, I need to be careful bringing that word up on the screen. But yes, just keep that in mind, folks. The word bun would probably be a good, sufficient substitute, I would say, for that one. Now, as you can see tonight, we're only a two-man team tonight, but don't worry, folks, because look who it is. It is the wise man of the bus, the wisest of all. Canada's favourite Tim, it is Liam, the Punk Duck Walter Greenwell. How are you doing, Liam?
Brilliant, man. It's like the night before Christmas, Halloween. Everything all rolled into one, isn't it?
It's mate, yeah.
I can feel it. I love it. I love the anticipation for a big game. I look at it as a big game for us. We get a chance to put them in their place. So I'm excited. And I'm excited to talk. Like, I hope the conversation is good tonight, right? Because we got like all these games you anticipated, and you think back to some of the amazing goals we've seen and people that have had brilliant games, particularly them. It's nice to see some of the memories come back again tonight.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, we'll be taking many trips to Mary because unlike the usual Bustalgia, where we'll have a set season that we're talking about, we're going to be jumping all over the place tonight. The old bus time traveling bus is certainly going to get its use tonight. We'll be all over the shop. The flux capacitor will be broken by the end of this show tonight. But yeah, before we go any further, then I'll do all that good stuff, of course, that we like to remind you of here on the bus. So, of course, if you're brand new to the Boise Bus, you won't just stumbled across this humble little channel, then by all means, hit the subscribe button. Over 3,490, I believe, at the moment. So we're heading for 3,500. So hopefully we'll pass that landmark in the very near future. Of course, if you're new, you can help us out towards that target by hitting subscribe. And of course, we go live a lot during the week, so be sure to hit the bell notification and you will be alerted when we do go live. Of course, hit that like button and also spreads the word of the Boise Bus and helps us out with the old algorithm, puts us into more people's recommended boxes on YouTube, so be sure to hit that. Of course, as I said earlier on, do get involved in the comment section thing. I know in the last couple of months of Bustalgia, I've always put a little poll at the top for the comments to get a bit of interaction, but yeah, tonight we're going to be relying on a lot of interaction from you guys because it's all about picking a Skelpers 11, so we want to hear your suggestions. So I'll be coming to the comments quite a lot tonight to get your suggestions for each position we go through. And of course, if you wish to share the link of the Boise Bus on any social media platform, by all means, please do so. And of course, you can, there's the Boise Bus horn going off there. And of course, if you want to check out piesports.com, our sponsor, and of course, if you get an order in and use the code BUS1888, you'll get a nice, tasty, delicious 12.5% off of your order. So yeah, with all of that out the way, and all that good stuff, and Liam, you'll be happy to know there's no trivia tonight. No trivia, mate. This is a different format tonight. We're just going to go in there, get it done, man. So there's no trivia things. You don't need to worry about any of that. Sorry, anyone in the comments disappointed, but I will be back on Tuesday to do Sudden Death with the Boise brothers. So that'll be the next bit of trivia you'll be seeing me doing on the channel. But yeah, let's get started, mate. So of course, there's only one position to start in, and interestingly enough, I get a funny feeling we're going to be talking about two guys in particular who we did do a rather long episode on around about Christmas time. I get a funny feeling they're going to be the main guys. But of course, we're going to start at the back of the goalkeeper position. Very, very important position. Now, let's. I've actually got some pictures as well, some suggestions. So when it comes to obviously the goalkeeper, let's take a look at some of the names that may come up. You may be quite an old school fan, shall we say? Maybe Paddy Bonner is your choice. Maybe you would like Paddy Bonner in goal. Safe pair of hands. He was goalkeeper for many, many years. Or maybe perhaps Fraser Forster. Of course, he's got that game. Obviously, standing there with the cup, the Betfred Cup from 2019. He was pivotal, to put it lightly, and I was actually winning that trophy that day. So he's always got that performance on his CV against Rangers. And of course, the criteria tonight is on things they've done against Rangers. So I'd say he's a very, very strong candidate. And of course, maybe you like this guy, Artur Boruc, the always mild-mannered Artur Boruc. He always took the fixture so well. He was always so nice and civil to them. Not a bad bone in his body at all. There was never any aggro or nothing. Oh, we kidding? Of course, he was always right in about it. If there was a Rami at the end of the game, he was right in there. And as you can see there, as he's walking off the park at Ibrox, just rubbing it right in their face. In a game that we lost, a dead rubber game, he's just reminding them, we're still the champions though, guys. Or of course, just for a bit of the part, if you're just feeling like have some an absolute banter choice, I did find this headline, which always makes me chuckle, although I don't think anyone would pick him. But maybe you think Lucas Zaluska qualifies just on the basis of that headline alone. Who knows? It's up to you. As I say, the criteria tonight is all to do with things they've done against Rangers. But yeah, I always get a good chuckle out of that headline along the way. But yes, I do get a funny feeling it's going to be much a Boruc and Foster debate on this one and who it's going to be. Because, yeah, Fraser Forster obviously has that game, Liam, against them in the 2019 League Cup final. It goes without saying that game is totally, totally iconic. Liam, you muted yourself?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, that's something just but never mind. Fraser Forster, hi.
It was just the 2019 League Cup final, how iconic it was.
Yeah, that's turned into the Fraser Forster game now, hasn't it? I mean, that's how I refer to that game now. I mean, that's iconic. You've got a game and you just have to refer to the player's name and you know what game you're talking about. Yeah, he's played a big part in that game, didn't he?
He did. Oh, he certainly did. I say he's got that to his name forevermore. Like I say, when it comes to Boric, like Boric has a lot of consistent performances against him, a lot of good saves along the way, but he doesn't have the utter Boric game against him, although he did do it, of course, in say the European stage, like that Man United game, for instance, the important penalty save he made. I mean, there's a name that's already came up here from Callum saying, what about Craig Gordon? So you see the 4 that I've put at the start there, that's what me saying, it has to be picked just between them. I'm just throwing some suggestions out there. Craig Gordon, for me, is a goalkeeper that gets a bit of a bad rep, and I don't understand, like, why over time. Like, since he's left us, I've been quite stunned at the sort of backlash that's been sent his way. Like, a lot of fans saying, oh, he's a terrible goalkeeper, and I'm like, I know he had a few clangers maybe in European games. The Red Bull Salzburg game sticks to mind, where he rolled the ball right into a defender's feet and stuff like that, but domestically especially, I always thought he was absolutely fine. I don't know if maybe when I think there's a game in particular. It's in Rodgers' second season. We beat them 2-0 at Ibrox at the start of the season, and there's a brilliant save he pulls off in Morelos in that game. Like, it's one of those Peter Schmeichel style saves where Morelos has got a head and he sort of like just spreads the limbs really well and saves it. And then there's one in the game at New Year. It's a 0-0 that we have, and Morelos again with a bullet header from about 6 yards out, and Gordon's already dived away from the ball, but he sticks a leg up and saves it. It's an astounding reaction save. People might say, oh, it's a bad miss. It's a bad miss from Morelos. No, it's a fucking good save. It's a total reaction save. So Gordon's definitely in for a shout. And if that's who you want in your team, say, we'll be coming to the comments and getting suggestions there, but Gordon is a decent goalkeeper. Don't be fooled, I think since people, he's joined Hearts, who, let's be honest, Liam, we're not particularly fond of the Jam Tarts here at Celtic, so I guess that kind of goes against him, but he's paid by another club now, that's just the way it is. But back to like Foster and Boric, obviously Gordon, Boric, Foster, they all kind of play for Celtic at the same, sort of in the same sort of generation. 3 best goalkeepers I've definitely seen playing in a Celtic shirt. But I say with Foster, he's got that one game, but all his other games against Rangers, I say there was some consistent moments and whatnot, like some decent saves here and there. But of course, when it comes to, as I said at the top of the show, antagonising and being a bit of a shithouse, let's talk about Artur Boruc. Let's go back actually to the show that we did about the Boruc versus Foster debate. And at the end, when I asked the viewers, I says, so who's better? And obviously the poll came up Fraser Foster. When I went round the panel that night and I got to you, Liam, and you went, well, basically, if I remember it, I said there's no wrong answer here. You went, no, there is a wrong answer. I'm going to tell you the right answer. It's Artur Boruc. So I've got a funny feeling that you're going to be leaning towards Artur Boruc here just for his madcap antics in particular against him. Because, he was definitely prone to it.
Okay, so this is about the Skelpers, right? Mm-hmm. So who's lining up in the park that's going to like go toe-to-toe with them?
Yep.
I think both of them are fantastic keepers, right?
Yep.
But I think Boruc edges it because he's got that. I think he's got a more of a drive and a commitment to the team, where I think Foster had more of a commitment to himself. You put Craig Gordon in that as well too. But, I wouldn't expect to see any of them standing on our terrace or at a Rangers game in League of Warsaw and with all the fans.
Yeah,
we've seen that already. And so he's a lifelong one of us, like, as a player, but also he's one of the mad supporters, like he gets it. So I think that, because that's who you want on the park. You want those players that, like, remember, this is against Rangers, so we want to scalp them. So you need the big man in the goal. You need Arthur. So as far as Skelpers go, I had one other addition to that list, Phil. And other people could comment on that. Tony Warner.
He played that one game. Well, he played 2 games, but he gets that one game, doesn't he?
He comes in, nobody even knew he was starting, nothing. It was like a shock. Who? Tony what? Tony who? That's me. So if you're looking for big boys and stuff like that and stepping up to a big moment, us against them, that's a scalping. Tony Warner.
And that game as well. And I think that game's going to get a few mentions tonight because there's a couple of guys that starred in that game that I think are going to come up. But Tony Warner, he's got that on his CV forevermore. It's astounding, And I think later in the season, he ends up going on loan to Aberdeen and plays against us as well, which is quite a bizarre stat. I learned when we did the Joseph Venglos season. But yeah, when it comes to like Boruc, I said earlier on, I was talking about how if ever there was a Rami at the end of a game, he was writing about it. He was even writing about it with his own players at times. Obviously, it's well known about his beef with Aid McGeady. There was a game with Lee Naylor and him were basically having a punch-up walking off the park. But it's the image of it's the 07-08 season when they got to the UEFA Cup final. I think it's after one of the ones who beat them at Celtic Park, and there's a Rami there where McGeady and Nacho Novo get into it. And there's the image of Boric, and he's got Davy Weir by the throat. He's actually got his hand like ruining his throat, and it's like, yeah, Arthur Boric, man. This is he just loved getting right in about all that stuff, man. But you use the word there, he gets it, and I say in the terms of what we're doing tonight, the Skelpers 11, I think it's safe to say he definitely gets it in that sense.
Aye. So he would be mine. Tony's my second.
Tony Warner, I would honestly, if you'd asked me tonight, before this, what goalkeepers you think would come up, Tony Warner would never ever have got a mention, but I say he has got that one game on his CV that he can always go back to and go, hey, I was in goals for that. I was in there for that one. But yeah, let's have a wee look for the because we've seen Boric and Foster seem to be the main ones, and so far. Say Craig Gordon got a wee mention. Somebody said Ian Andrews earlier on as well. I was like, if I'm right in saying this a bit before my time, I think Ian Andrews only played one game against him that we lost 5-1. Pretty sure this is a game that Ray Wilkins scores a fucking screamer for them right into the top corner, but I'm sure they tanked us. And there's Kieran coming in to say Boric flipping the bird or waving a flag. Can't really do. Yeah, it was Barry Ferguson. The Barry Ferguson's walking off the park. He's running basically alongside him with the champions flag. Barkas in with a shout. Aye, right, San Fran Celtic. You're definitely at it. But yeah, in terms of the goalkeeper, I'd say for me, I actually did pick Boric, even on the day that we did the Foster and Boric show where we did one against the other. Obviously, my vote went to Foster because I was going for who I think was the best keeper overall at the two. But I say if I'm going purely on the criteria tonight, the Skelpers 11, I've actually leaned on Boric for that one. And obviously you've agreed on that one. But here's the thing, Liam, you did something as well before coming on this tonight. Even though there's only two of us on the screen, there is actually a third person's opinion that you've got tonight. You actually did what, if you wish to tell the viewers?
Right, so I've been playing around in that chat GPT, the open frame source, right? So artificial intelligence. And it sort of, gives you predictive stuff. It only goes to 2021. So there wasn't any new players on it. But I put that into it and I said, okay, give me who's the best players for Celtic against Rangers in the recent history, and and put them in a 4-4-2 formation for me. And it came up and it came out and it just started spitting them out. And it was funny. So I'll get them as we go along, right? But so they had Arthur Boric as well.
There you go. The AI picked Arthur Boric. Did it give a reason?
This is what it says. It says, a solid presence and goal for Celtic. Boric led, had several impressive performances against Rangers, including a penalty save and nothing victory in 2008.
He's
it gave me like a full list as well. I mean, some of them agree, some of them disagree. But
yeah.
Anyway,
artificial intelligence, man. That's going to be Russell tonight. That's taking the place of Russell this evening. Artificial intelligence. We'll turn to that. So it picked Boric as well. That is astounding.
First time I've heard Russell and intelligence in the same set.
Brave man. We can say it though. The cat's away, so we can say it. But no, he's no, you'll take the AI will take the place tonight of Russell, I guess, in this one. But I've got a funny feeling that if Russell was here, he'd probably lean towards Boric as well, because I imagine he's a big advocate of the chaos that the holy goalie brings. I say there's a lot of love going on. There's a name came up, Patrick McGowan, just saying Stuart Kerr was honking too. We did the 96-97 season, we did that episode, and at the time, I think it was because Gordon Marshall had just been so bad for so long that it was so refreshing. Somebody different was in goal. Remember, he saved a penalty from Paul Gascoigne in a game at Celtic Park. They beat us 1-0 and Van Vossen missed one on the line, but loads of people thought Stuart Kerr was going to be our goalkeeper for generations to come. David Marshall probably fell in the same category after the performances he put in against Barcelona. I think he had a good one against Rangers at Ibrox as well, and but yeah, it just didn't come to be. But yeah, it seems going through the chat, it looks like Boric is getting the nod. I say the two of us have picked Boric and the AI's picked Boric. I say, as good as Foster was, and Jesus Christ, he was good. As I say, if you go back and watch the Boric v Foster episode, my vote actually went to Foster overall as a goalkeeper, but just purely on tonight and what we're talking about, and that the Skelpers 11. Yeah, we're going to give it to the holy goalie. He's going to take the number 1 shot. So, yeah, at the end, I'll obviously read out the full team. But, yeah, make some noise for the boys. Number 1 is Artur Boric. There you go. So, we'll move on to the back line. So, the first half of the show, Liam, we'll do the goalkeeper and we'll do the back line. And then in the second half, we'll do the midfield and the forwards. Although, I think everyone can kind of, I guess, I say forwards, plural, probably the forward, because I think everybody can guess who one of them is going to be. I don't think there'll be any surprises. Like I even said it on Tuesday night. I went, spoiler, got a funny feeling the guy in the middle of the graphic is going to be a definite in this team. So we're basically picking his partner for the front line. But yeah, we'll move on to the fullback. So we'll start on the right-hand side. So I've got a few suggestions, obviously, for that one again. And again, you don't need to go by the 4 I'm going to put on the screen. You also get your suggestions in. So I think here's one, a consistent one that played for Celtic for a long time. And I found a picture of him basically doing his bit for the cause. Maybe Jackie McNamara. Here he is, laying one on Mark Hateley. Good stuff, Jackie. Well done. Maybe you go for, in a similar ilk, Mark Wilson, who in that game basically killed Sasa Papic. He scored the goal and KO'd Sasa Papic at the exact same time. It's an iconic moment. It was a hell of a game. It had everything that night, under the lights. What a moment. And I say you can put somebody in this team based on just one moment as well. So maybe he's obviously a shout. Maybe, again, you're from old school generation fan, and this is a bit before my time, but I do believe this guy's shot was deflected in by George McCluskey in the 1980 Scottish Cup final that led to all sorts of chaos in the park. Of course, Danny McGrain, who is regarded by many as the greatest right fullback in Celtic history. And of course, if we're going to talk about the shithousers, the stirrers, the people that like to get under their skin and antagonise them, and we're going to recent history, you've got to be talking about Mikael Lustig. Of course, he knew how to really wind them up. He was definitely in that camp, and a decent player as well, albeit his legs definitely went as later in his career as time did catch up with him. But yeah, Mikael Lustig is in with a shout as well. But of course, you don't need to pick any of them in the comments. Any other right backs you wish to suggest? That was just a few that I picked out from generations gone past. Liam, who are you leaning towards as the right back in your team?
Jeremy Frimpong.
Jeremy Frimpong, okay.
Through the roof. We get him back now. I mean, if I'm looking to start now, I mean, if I get him now, nobody played against Rangers. They get sent off.
Well, yeah, he did. But do you remember when we talked about this one, the 2019 League Cup final? Do you remember what Neil Lennon did when Frimpong walked off the park that day, when he walked off after being sent off?
What?
Neil Lennon hugged him because he took one for the team, because the ball was rolling back to Morelos in front of an empty net and Frimpong just rugby tackled him to the ground. So he actually took one for the team, and lucky for him, it worked out pretty well.
And see, coming up to that game, he was on some form as well. Like, it was, I remember the anticipation for that game, and it was like, just unleash him. They will not know how to deal with his speed in that. And, you know, again, that was another one. Predicted 3-0, 4-0 for us, you know. But, no.
He was no, you go.
So for my player, Phil, I had McGrain. Danny
McGrain.
I mean,
yeah.
I caught the tail end of his career as a kid growing up.
Mm.
What a player, you know. Oh, what a player. And just everything about him just oozed class. And that was, I liked it. You know, I liked he was a Celtic player and seen him with Scotland and all that. And yeah, it was a huge influence, you know. So, yeah, I'd go with McGrain. Yeah, that's a fair shout. It's a bit before my time. I was born in 85 and didn't really start paying attention to football till 94. But say if I'm looking at archive footage and so on, I understand exactly how good Danny McGrain was. And say it was his shot that was deflected, his skew with effort that was probably going past the post as well, that I believe George McCluskey sticks a leg out and deflects it into the net. And you've actually mentioned before, Liam, you were at the 1980 Scottish Cup final. Were you on the park having a rammy that day, or were you sensible? No, sensible. No, I was at Holy Communion in the morning and with bloody suits on and stuff like that. And me and my two uncles, because we had to get to the game, we were just up in Castlebar. But that was my first ever a Rangers Celtic. My only ever Rangers Celtic game that I've been to in person. No? But never in
it's a hell of a game to go to, mate. It's a hell of a game.
Hell of a game to get home from. I mean, we had to
Aye.
get Castle Walk, and it was like Apache's last stand, you know, the buses had stopped, and it was like warriors trying to get back up there, you know, and I was like, oh, Jesus, I was on holiday for Canada at the time. I've been softened already.
So you saying that's the only Celtic Rangers game? That's like Tony Warner way. So I played in that game, and you're like, that's the only Celtic Rangers game I've been to. What an iconic game to have been to.
Do you know what? You know, Phil, people at the game remember this, but I don't think you see it in any of the clips. There was a USA marching band that came on at half time, and they were doing, you know, all the trumpet kicking about and all that, and they then got us seated like at the end of the track in Hampden. And when the first wave of all the Rangers guys came down, they got trampled and all that. It was like drums and trumpets and hats and all that go flying up in the air. It's crazy.
A manic day by the sounds of it, mate. But he's definitely. I'm looking through the comments. McGrain's names came up a few times, but I'll tell you what, Mikael Lustig's name is really, really coming up because, again, I can only really base it on what I've watched in my lifetime. And yeah, Lustig, maybe not the best player, and obviously his legs did go, but hey, that's natural for a footballer. You know, it will come to them eventually. They'll have to, you know, father time will catch up. But my God, especially from the Brendan Rodgers era onwards against him, because obviously no fault of Celtic. Obviously, Lustig didn't play against them much in his first few years at the club, because, you know, that is then no Celtic's fault. They got him punished for numerous misdemeanors. But yeah, from the 2016-17 season onwards, he was just having the partner against them, I think. And obviously he would pop up with the occasional assist and goals, it would turn out. But I think it was the first 5-1 game, and it's mad that you actually say that, the first 5-1 game, the second 5-1 game, because that's what it was like during that era. The one with Joey Barton, the Scott Brown debacle, the 5-1 at Celtic Park. I think it was Russell pointed out to me there's a point during one of the goals where I think he grabs like a burst beach ball and puts it on his head during one of the celebrations. And I think, and obviously there's the police hat celebration and all. But yeah, he was just absolutely having the partner against them and just absolutely loving ragdolling them. And I think, of course, it's all summed up, Liam, by the 5-1 game at Ibrox, where, of course, he scores the 5th goal, the perfect way to cap it off. You know, it's a sea of empty blue seats all around Ibrox. You know, the times we had the full broom loan. But obviously picks up the ball, you know, a good 35 yards for goal, breezes past a couple of Rangers players who are just, they're absolutely done at this point. And yeah, just bends it into the corner. You know, you associate a defender, you know, type of goal they're likely to score, maybe a header or something at a set piece. But he finishes that really, really well, bends into the far corner. Of course, you get the iconic Rangers TV commentary that went with it. And it was like, oh, I trust you'll enjoy that tonight. You know, Tom commentator. Yeah, he was not. He wasn't best pleased at that one, but my God, of all the people to wrap it up, I can remember one of my mates, particularly as a Rangers fan, he was so furious that Lustig scored. They just had, at that point in time, other than Scott Brown, who, you know, was always a figure of hate for them, they'd really developed this massive hatred for Mikael Lustig, and they'd only been back in the top division for a season. So where this came from, why they just latched onto him. But I remember my mate was absolutely just so angry that it was him of all people. And I'm like, okay, where's this hatred came from? But he was having the absolute part of that season, wasn't he?
Oh, aye. I mean, it was a riot. I mean, it's a Vikings for Sweden. Vikings are home in Scotland. We like that sort of shithousery, you know, and I like it as well. You know, you see that in hockey here all the time, in ice hockey. There's a lot of that going on. I think you see that a wee bit in Alistair Johnson as well. So it's all a bit of shithousery and that. And so Lustig probably played hockey as well, you know. But I thought he was a cracking player. And he was like, if you're looking for somebody that's going to give you their all and run through a wall, so to speak, you know, against them, again, that's a really good shout to have in your team.
Who did the magical AI pick? Who did AI Russell Boyce pick?
For Danny McGrain.
Danny McGrain, okay.
It says a legendary right back for Celtic, McGrain played a key role in many Old Firm victories, including, I don't think this is right, the 7-1 thrashing of Rangers in 1957. So AI is...
Oh, no, I don't think that's right, but well, it's AI. There's a few teething problems, like VAR, there's some teething problems there.
Well, at least I agreed with it this one.
Yeah, I mean, Danny McGrain is definitely a good shout. There's plenty of people coming in saying that, although I've noticed a few comments along the lines of, if you're going on best 11 ever, Danny McGrain every day of the week. If you're going on purely on the basis of Skelpers and what they did against Rangers and so forth, then a lot of people are leaning towards Mikael Lustig. I hear there was a comment further back as well that said, never seen Danny McGrain wearing the beach ball on his head. So I suppose that's the criteria. I say at the moment, Lustig's been getting a lot of love in the comments. I say I picked Lustig and all. So comments, we'll put it to the chat with this one. So I could create a poll, but I'd have to do that for so many times tonight. So just really quickly, guys, in the chat, and I'll just gauge it for the next like 30 seconds to a minute. Lustig or McGrain, just go type it now. Lustig or McGrain in the chat, and I'll keep my eyes on it just now. But I can't think of any other right backs while they're doing that, Liam. I can't even think of many others. The fullbacks is a bit of a niche position. It was a bit tough to narrow it down, but in recent history, though, I think the longevity of Lustig, it's just a shame that the way it ended for him, because Ryan Kent became his nemesis without a shadow of a doubt. So that was kind of when you started to see the legs were going. In fact, the treble season that we did last week, Brendan Rodgers made it very clear he wanted a new right back at that point, and all they gave him was Jeremy Toljan. He's definitely not getting in. And I'll tell you another one, John Joe Kenny. There's a fourth, man. Oh, Jesus, some of the bad right backs we've had in recent years. My God.
I think that is the worst. That's the worst player I've ever seen play for Celtic. And yet, you can't get him out the team. And we had Robson sitting there as well. And I was rating Robson as a player. He was honest. And I think we'd we would have to play him deals or something. I can't explain anything else because he probably had the worst. He's a negative of a Skelper. He's a helper. He was a helper.
He gave away a corner from the halfway line. How do you... And they lost a goal off of said corner. How do you even do that? But I'm looking at the chat now. Lustig's names came in more in the last minute or so. So, yeah, we'll give it to Mikael Lustig. He's taking the right back shot in this Skelpers 11. So I'm sure already on the other side, the Rangers team are like, God, Boric and Lustig already. Back from using our time machine, bringing them back. They're like, oh, Jesus, these two. So, yeah, we'll move over to the left-hand side now. And this, again, was a bit of a tough one because I feel like left-backs there's some good performers that we've had, but I was trying to think of ones that have had moments against them. It's a bit of a tough one, but again, I've just throw a few names out there. So when it comes to the left-back, perhaps you want to go for, a very consistent player in his time here. Emilio Ezagiri, who obviously has that performance against them in the 3-0 game where Gary Hooper sent Davy Weir into retirement, but that game, Ezagiri was unbelievable up that left-hand side. One of the goals in particular that Hooper scores is a great 1-2 pass with Samaras, bells down the line, whips it across the goal, and Gary Hooper slides in back post and scores. So obviously, I put him in there as a suggestion, but again, this is quite a tough position to pick. Obviously, a standout one would be this guy, Kieran Tierney. Naturally, what he achieved in the Celtic shirt coming through, the youth ranks and whatnot, getting to the level that he was. Always a consistent performer against them, no doubt about it. I don't think he had many bad moments against them. So I say Tierney's in with a shout. Maybe you think, and again, this is one of those ones based on just one moment. This guy wasn't even a left back. He was converted to left back. But hey, he did score a very important goal at Ibrox. Johnny Hayes, Irishman, scoring at Ibrox in the last minute. He was always a reliable hand for Neil Lennon. But yeah, we'll never ever forget that goal in that moment and just how demoralised they were. I imagine how raging they must have been. They're like, oh my God, Johnny Hayes just scored against us. We look at Stephen Davis in the background there. He's absolutely seething. But yeah, we'll never forget that. But Liam, of course, we know you're a guy that likes a bit of rock and roll, a bit of chaos. And I've had this one in mind just for you, just for the parter. Maybe you just want somebody like Stefan Mahe in the team. Somebody like him.
That's your back.
That is who you picked. Oh,
yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's go into that. Why Stefan Mahe?
Joe Strummer, no, he can haircut at the time. It was class. It's just that's a guy you want on the parkway. That's why you want him as your left back. The Mohican strip, the crazy eyes, just tearing up and down. He gave them nightmares. You could tell he was going through guys and everything. He got the fixture. So I'd have him there. And if you end up with Lustig on the other side,
Lustig and Mahi.
But he would balance Danny McGray in it, right? So I've got the really wise old head there, and then got this like loose cannon here as well. But it's like it's a bit of rock and roll. So some traditional rock, some punk rock, keep tempo, because I've got a fast team against them.
Honestly, Mahi's name's coming in. Mahi was on that job, loved him too. Travis Bickle at left back. I'm assuming he's talking about Mahi, obviously with the mohawk, and it's like, Mahi's as soon as I was going through left backs, I was like, I'm going to put Mahi in the suggestion because I know that Liam will love that. And lo and behold, you actually picked him. And the thing was, he's always remembered for that mad meltdown that he had in the infamous shame game, right? The picture that I use is him literally berating Hugh Dallas after he got tackled badly. He's telling him to basically book the player, and ends up he gets sent off. But he actually had some good moments against them in terms of he plays in the 6-2 game. It's one of his crosses that I believe it's Chris Sutton's goal to make it 6 on the day. He slides in at the back post. So that slide tackle finish that Chris Sutton was so good at. But there's another game as well I remember in Venglos' season. And we talk about some scandalous decisions against us. I'm pretty sure Stefan Mahi weaves in from the left-hand side brilliantly and gets absolutely poleaxed by a Rangers defender. And the referee was Jim McCluskey. Waves it off. We end up drawing the game 2-2. Alan Stubbs and Larson scored for us that day. By Mahi just getting up the left-hand side. So he cuts in brilliant bit of skill. I can't remember which Rangers defender, maybe Amoruso, whatever one it is, comes across and absolutely wipes him out. And it's remember we were talking about the Paul Lambert, Jorg Albert's penalty a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about Barnes' season. It's up there with there. It's a pure ludicrous decision. But I could always remember Mahi. Yeah, there's a few people called Alistair Jackson. It was Kanchelskis that done him. I thought it was a Rangers defender. It was Andre Kanchelskis that slide tackled him. But it was a ludicrous one. There you go. There's Alan Woods saying that Mahi should have got that penalty at Ibrox. Actually, wasn't he all just a mad hothead? But when I was putting together suggestions, I was like, I've got to put Mahi in there just because I know that Liam loves a bit of Stefan Mahi. And so far, we've got Lustig. We've got Lustig. And we could have Mahi in this. He's getting a lot of love. But I see some of the other left backs I threw in there. I say Izagiri, his first season at Celtic, he was unbelievable, but obviously he got injured in the second season, and that's, of course, when Rangers had their, shall we say, issues. They caused him to disappear for a few years, but he's always got that one game in particular against him where he was unbelievable. The whole team were great that day, but I'll never forget the marauding run down the left-hand side. The 1-2 with Samaras that Hooper ends up scoring off of. Phenomenal moment. Kieran Tierney, one of the moments that always stands out for me, because we've said before, and we've talked about Tierney on this show, Liam, is he was never afraid of a slide tackle. For a young guy coming into the team, he loved a slide tackle. He talked about how he idolised Bobo Baldi, and you're like, I can get that. I can see with the way that you go into a tackle pretty hard. I can understand that you like him. There's a game that we beat them at Ibrox again on the Brendan Rodgers era. It might be in the 3-2 game, or it's the 2-0 game from the start of the season, because we've got the gold Dafabet on the shirt. And there's a moment, I think it's Daniel Candeas tackles, he's out wide, and Tierney just goes through him, but wins the ball. It's a fair challenge, it's a hard challenge, but it's fair. But there's this lasting image where he just gets up and Candeas is on the ground rolling around screaming in agony, and Tierney's just walking away from him, not even looking at him, not even acknowledging him. And it's just one of these perfectly timed pictures where it's just it just sums it up perfectly. It's it works as a metaphor for how things were going at that time between both teams. It's Tierney just bodying him, just no giving a toss at all. But I just love that moment. And Stuart Miller's here, yeah, Tierney hated Rangers, 100%. But yeah, I actually went for Tierney in my team based on that picture, just because that moment alone was phenomenal. But now, after listening to you, I'm thinking, you know what? I like a wee bit of chaos as well. I like a wee bit of madness. And again, we're going by Skelpers 11. Lustig and Stefan Mahi in the same team just sounds absolute anarchy. It really does.
And behind him as well, right?
And Boric, oh, Jesus Christ, this team. This is Maniac Central.
It's no building here.
It's a mad team. Imagine if Andrew's given this team, he'd be like, what? What do I even do with this? Oh, he would be absolutely... But yeah, so again, we'll put it to the chat. So again, if you just go like really quickly over the next minute, I'll just gauge again which name comes in the most as me and Liam just continue to just have a wee chat, or I'll just keep my eye on the corner there. But yeah, say left back, Liam, it was a bit of a tough one. It's a bit of a niche position. I seen Lee Naylor's name come up there, and that did cross my mind. I was like, he did do okay for most part, and he has got a goal against him, but it was also a bit of a dead rubber game, that one. That's the free kick that he scores, and Fortuny scores the other one. But they'd already won the league at that point. But again, he has always got that on his he has always got it. Oh, by the way, we've not got to the midfielders yet, Kieran, but Thomas Gravison, he did score twice against Rangers. He might be in with a shout in the centre midfield. You never know when we get there. We'll deal with that one.
I'm building a psycho team, the proper Skelpers.
And by the way, Alistair Jack's saying this, and to be fair, again, we're probably guilty because it's a bit too recent, but Greg Taylor has obviously, I know you're not a huge Greg Taylor fan, so Alistair, you're talking to the wrong guys on the panel tonight, because Liam here's not the big fan, but other than the shut your whole fat boy to Morelos comment he made, that is obviously lives in infamy, that one. But there was a game last season, beat them 3-0 at Celtic Park, the nighttime game. And there was a lot of talk, a lot of hype about Diallo, the boy wonder. He was going to be doing this and that. He was going to absolutely rip us to shreds. He got absolutely pocketed by Greg Taylor that night. That was the first game where I watched Taylor and went, you know what? This boy's going to do well for us. Because up to that point, I was kind of just like, he's all right, but that night he properly pocketed that lad. And since then, I think he's been quite a consistent performer. So Greg Taylor's not a bad shout, by the way. And I've got an update for you. I'd say Mahe is just edging it. So my God, Stefan Mahe and Mikael Lustig and Artur Boric in this Skelpers 11. Oh my word, what is going on? What are we even going to put at centre back here to add to this absolute chaos that's coming together? So yeah, a centre back pairing. Let's have a wee look then at some suggestions again. And of course, there's plenty to go through here, so it was really hard to whittle it down to just a few. So centre backs, obviously, we could talk about this guy. Virgil van Dijk only played once against him, but if you want to talk about a moment that can be used as a metaphor, nobody will ever forget as he ran up the park and Nicky Law tried everything in his power to get the ball off him, and Virgil van Dijk just kept going, get away from me, just slapped him away multiple times. It's like, if ever you could use something as a metaphor for how it is between Celtic and Rangers nowadays, that was it. That was definitely it. Of course, he hasn't played enough against Rangers, I feel, but what a class player he was. And he has got that one solitary moment. Maybe you want to include this guy, talk about chaos, talk about anarchy. Johan Mjällby definitely falls into that category. Always a consistent performer against them. Can't remember him having many bad games against Rangers. He's one of the few centre-backs from that generation I don't think ever scored against them, because Valhaden notched up some goals against them. And obviously, so did this guy, Bobo Balde. He notched up quite a fair few goals from centre-back against them. Absolute powerhouse, total colossus. Yes, it has been debated many times that, yeah, he wasn't the best footballer technically, but my God, he certainly did the job that Martin O'Neill needed him to do. He was just an absolute unit, and very few people got much change out of him. And hey, if you want to go to a more consistent one, and again, or a more recent one, talking about moments in time, go back to last season, where we needed to win that league. We go to Ibrox, we have a bit of a shocking start to the day, and then this guy pops up with the winning goal. Cameron Carter-Vickers, who again, I don't think has had many bad games against Rangers and other ones he's played. He scored a vital goal to win his league. He's easily the best centre-back we've had since Virgil van Dijk. I think Carter-Vickers would be a very, very good shout as well. But of course, there are plenty of centre-backs down the years to choose from. But that was just a few suggestions there. So, Liam, who have you went for as a centre-back pairing in this 11?
Right, so definitely Bobo Balde, right? I want to right for the goal, right for the middle. We're going to dominate the back in the middle of the park. Bobo's going to get you, right? So Bobo has to be in that team as well. So now I've got a lot of crazy people in my team right now.
Yes.
So I need somebody to pair with him that's going to help keep the head. Somebody might have to talk to the police, right? And so we're going to have Billy McNeil. It's well respected. And obviously, nobody bossed Rangers like that Celtic team did back then. I've only know about it. I've never seen it, but you know the history and all that. And so you got to have Billy McNeil because you need a captain as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm looking through again. Here's a name that came up: Roy Aitken. Feed the bear. Bobo's going to get you, of course. I think Bobo Baldy's going to get a big bit of support in this one. I can definitely see Baldy being an outstanding one. Although this has got an interesting one from San Fran Celtic. CCV is too sensible for this team. You're probably right, to be fair. He would be a calming head in there, no doubt about it, with the way this team's coming together. But again, just going on like moments. But over the years, the centre-back one is tough because centre-backs, obviously, they don't score many, or defenders just generally don't score many. But I say Baldy's got a really good record in terms of goals against Rangers. I can remember in Strachan's first season, we played them twice in quick succession in the League Cup. In the league, beat them 2-0 and 3-0. I think Baldy was on the score sheet both times that night. Or I think one of them actually went down as an own goal by Stefan Klos, but it was caused by Baldy just getting in there with a header at the back post. But yeah, he scored, I think, as well. I remember scoring at Hampden against him as well in the Scottish Cup final. Unfortunately, it was a bad ending to that Scottish Cup final, if I remember right as well. But yeah, he was definitely a colossus at the back. Anyone that he played alongside in that team as well, Liam, we had Valhaden and Mialby, always a solid partnership. And of course, for a good few years under O'Neill, it was all three of them playing together. And in fact, just before Baldy's arrival, the guy that he replaced, I think, would be a good shout. And again, maybe a bit too calm for this team, but Alan Stubbs, I think, would be a decent shout. I remember I was talking a few minutes ago about the game where Mahe gets wiped out by Kaczewskis. Alan Stubbs scores a phenomenal goal in that one for a centre-back, bends it in from the edge of the area with his right foot. And of course, don't forget the goal the season before that salvaged the draw in the last minute. If we want to go purely on moments against Rangers, that header in the last minute against Rangers in '97, some fans will say that is the result that basically no sealed the 10, but it was huge when you look at the way that season panned out and how close it was. That Alan Stubbs header is a moment, but he was a colossus as well at the back for us, wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Stubbsy was. I mean, there was a lot of teams in England trying to get him when he came to us. I think he was. I think we were very lucky to get him, and I think we paid over the odds as well when we were playing proper money for players. I think he was one of the most expensive ones to come out of there. Thing. I like what we're building. I could see Stubbs in there. Mialby, always liked Mialby. I could see him doing it well. So AI had Billy McNeil, Bobo Baldy.
All right, okay.
Right. Yep. And then for left back, they had Tommy Gemmell.
Okay, well, that again makes perfect sense. Tommy Gemmell, arguably Celtic's best left back ever, a shadow of doubt. A goal scoring left back as well. He was very renowned for getting forward and scoring, despite being a defender. But yeah, the AI is building a nice, sensible team. We're going down the complete opposite. We're going for carnage. Although I do like San Fran Celtics. Billy will refuse to get on that bus. Yes, he will. He'll take one step onto the bus and see all the players that are gathering on and go, no, no, thank you. Kieran McFadden, McManus, come on, you. Really? I mean, McManus and Caldwell together.
Again, that's helpers, no Skelpers. Helpers.
Yeah. Although Caldwell will tell you how vital he was in the game that we beat them when Vennegoor Hesselink scored, because he set up both goals that night. Essentially, he was at the sort of the base at both goals. He played a long ball to Nakamura, who controlled it, and then bent one in from 25, 30 yards, an obscene goal. And then it was actually his long pass to Scott McDonald, who headed it across the goal for Vennegoor Hesselink. But that was when Caldwell was going through his Franz Beckenbauer stage, where he thought he was like a deep lying midfielder or something like that, like the old sweeper, like, getting forward, pinging passes around. But Caldwell and McManus, jeez, what a time that was. But yeah, I'm on some of the names here. We've got Philip DeMarco saying Bobo, Mick McCarthy, Roy Aitken's name coming up again.
Right.
I mean, I've looked at the comments and gone, I think Bobo is a cert going by the way the comments have gone. His name is coming up a lot. So I think Bobo Baldy is a definite. But the other one alongside him, I mean, I went for my team, Baldy was in my team, and I put Carter Vickers next to him and all, because I was basing it again on the moment, how important that goal was last season. A winning goal at Ibrox, and he finished it really, really well with his feet. Again, not a finish you associate with defenders. But in every performance since then, I think Carter Vickers has been phenomenal. I think he'll continue that tomorrow and in the remaining games against them. And definitely the best defender we've had since Virgil van Dijk. But I say some of the names that are coming up, McNeil's getting, Paul Elliott's getting a lot of love. Even Van Dijk's name's getting suggested. After I said, look, he only did play one game against them. But again, if you're going to base it on just a moment, that is one of the most hilarious moments I've seen in the last decade, when Nicky Law is trying everything, all in vain, to get the ball off Virgil van Dijk. He's just like, get away from me. Just slapping him away every time. It was phenomenal. It was like, you just couldn't get the ball off the guy. It's just a shame that we never got to play against him more, because I think he would have enjoyed bodying them quite a bit, because that would have been the partnership as well, Liam, with Jason Denayer alongside him.
That was a good partnership.
It was. It really was. Two players that could definitely play the ball out for the back, no problem. Andrew would love to work with they two at that point in time. Jesus, man. You want to talk about playing out for the back? Jesus. Funny enough, guys, I'm not seeing Starfelt's name in the comments tonight. This is part of an undefeated partnership, by the way. There you go. He did a wee Cruyff turn in the cup final a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, against the Rangers. Come on, guys. Don't see any love for Starfelt. Johan, Stuart Mills, going to say Johan and CCV together. Some of these partnerships, man, just thinking about it. Here's an interesting one. Sviatchenko was decent. We've talked about this Sviatchenko one before. He was actually okay up until we played him at Ibrox in a game that we won, and then he seemed to be the fall guy after it, because he played a pretty rotten pass out of defence that Rangers ended up scoring off it, and then after that, Boyata got into the team and never seemed to look back after that. But Sviatchenko did score, and again, if we're going to go on moments, that power header against them at Hampden in that cup semi-final, albeit, yes, it ended terribly that day. It didn't go how it should have went. But my God, that header and that celebration was just like, again, you talk about Liam, a guy that gets it. You just watched Sviatchenko that day and went, oh, he gets it. And here's another one I'm just going to throw in there as well. Again, if we're talking about just moments and guys who got it. Christopher Agier, do you remember a game that we've talked about a lot in the last few weeks? Funny enough, it keeps coming up, but that 2-1 game when Forrest scored the winner, there's a moment in the last couple of minutes where Joe Worrell had a tap in, an empty net right in front of him, and Christopher Agier gets in and slide tackles out of nowhere and blocks it, and he celebrates that slide tackle like a goal. And of course, that he's involved in the Rami at the end, as I talked about the Andy Halliday meltdown. The image is, of course, Scott Brown, Christopher Agier, and Scott Bain are all just kind of holding Andy Halliday at arm's length as they're all just laughing in his face. They're all just laughing at him, just like, steer you. But yeah, some good centre back.
He showed a lot of passion for us as a young boy coming in. We got loaned out and then playing a hard position where, you know, a lot of critical, you know, people looking at you. I thought he did fantastic with us, and the fact that he felt confident enough to show up in some of those big games and, you know, and be part of the protectors or whatever you call it, was brilliant. I thought, a lot of love for Ayer. I think he would have done really well in Ange's team right now.
Aye, I think he would have as well. I'll tell you, looking through this, I think Roy Aitken's getting a lot looking through the comments here. I think this was against Rangers, but I can remember seeing, like, you know, in the archive footage, like a goal that he scores against them at Celtic Park, where he just runs like essentially the length of the park. Somebody in the chat will come and tell me, but somebody like picks it up in the middle and just breezes past a load of players or just powers past them, because he was obviously a big burly guy. He hits a shot and the Rangers keeper saves it and it rolls back out to him and he puts it in the net and then continues to keep running as he celebrates. And I was like, man, he must have been absolutely cream crackered at the end of that one. But yeah, from what I gather from Roy Aitken, he was an absolute unit against them as well. Obviously captain for many years, but he's been getting a lot of love. Bob Baldy and Aitken seem to be getting a lot of mentions. So that's an interesting one. And you definitely, and of course he won the throw-in that got us the 1989 Scottish Cup final. I believe it was the ball went out off a Rangers player and Roy Aitken took a quick throw-in and we broke up the park. And Joe Miller scored, and they've still not let that one go all these years later. So they want to talk about us, but paranoia and stuff like that, and it's like they're still hung up over a throw-in from 1989. But I think it's Roy Aitken that takes the the quick throw in that one. So interesting one. So I'm going to say that Bobo Baldi is a definite for this, going by the comments. So again, and for the comments, guys, if you just in the next minute just fire in names again, and I'll just quickly gauge it. But I've got a funny feeling it's going to be Roy Aitken, because I've been looking at the comments for the last 5 minutes or so, and his name's coming up a lot. But yeah, go chat, fire in some names just now, and we'll see what we get as I have a wee browse through, see if there's any other interesting names that. Did you say that the AI picked Billy McNeil and Bobo?
Aye, Billy McNeil and Bobo.
I think whoever gets in here alongside Bobo is probably going to be the sensible captain of this team, because we're looking at Mahi, Bobo Baldi, Artur Boric, Lustig. Yeah, we're going to need a sensible head in there. We're going to need it.
Aye.
There it is. So Philip DeMarco says, no, Aitken kicked it out and then took it quickly. Millibone kisses to them. What a day. Aitken booting the ball out at the very end. Aye. There we go. Roy Aitken. Paul Elliott and Bobo Willoughby. Yeah, that's the name that's came up. Bobo and Roy. There's Mark Kearney, the judge, is in. Welcome aboard, Judge. Roy Aitken and Bobo vote as well. God, that's quite a centre-back pair in that one. Yeah, it looks to me like, Roy Aitken, the bear, feed the bear. He's in. So yeah, Roy Aitken is going to join this team. So I think at the moment he's definitely looking like the guy wearing the captain's armband, the guy to keep this team in check. But we haven't done the rest of the team yet. There may be a sensible head coming in, but yeah, so far we've got Boric in goal, we've got Lustig at right back, Stefan Mahi at left back. Oh, the carnage! Bobo Baldi and Roy Aitken. So that is our goalkeeper and our defence. So as I said, the first half of the show we'll do that. We've just hit 56 minutes, so we're just coming up to the hour. So yeah, I will put in a musical interlude, and when we come back, we'll be doing the midfield and the forwards. And by the way, just for clarification, in case anyone didn't pick up, we're doing it in a 4-4-2 formation. We're just keeping it very simple. 4-4-2, so there'll be a left midfielder, a right midfielder, 2 central midfielders, and 2 strikers. But as I said earlier on, there's a very, very good chance that a certain Swedish striker is already in. If he's already on the bus, he was on the bus when I started the engine. He was already sitting there like, who's my teammates? You know, because he's definitely getting in there. So we're going to be picking his strike partner, essentially. But yeah, we will come back after the musical interlude, and we will be going on to our midfield. So we shall, once I find it, because I've got a million pictures saved in the files here. Yes, once we come back from that, we will be diving into the old midfield. So we'll see you in a couple of moments.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.
And we are back. And yes, just to verify, Patrick McLaughlin has recapped it very well. What's the team so far? Yes, it is indeed an absolute madness of Boric, Lustig, Aitken, Bobo, and Mahe so far we've done. So yeah, goalkeepers and the back line. So yeah, we'll move on to the midfield now because we're keeping it very simple. Nice 4-4-2. Got the days of two up front. What a novel concept. But yeah, we're going to go for that as a formation this one. So yeah, we're going to have a wide left midfielder, a wide right midfielder, and two centre mid. So Liam, do you wish to start with the wide midfielders or the centre midfielders?
Let's go inside out. We started outside in. Let's go outside. Yeah, outside in.
So we're starting with the central.
Aye.
Central. Okay, yeah. No worries at all. Right. So centre midfield is a hard one. Obviously, it's a very important part of the park. It's the engine room essentially. So again, try just. I'll put some suggestions up, but again, don't take it. You know that this is the four that you need to choose from. You can obviously throw in whatever suggestions you want, but again, just a couple of names I just threw in there for centre midfield. Say maybe you want to keep it quite recent. This is a guy, Liam, that you've talked about. Who's got the potential to become a Skelper. What about this guy, Rio Hitati? So far, he has definitely made his mark in this fixture. And also, I love that picture just for the absolute despair and Connor Goldson's face in the background. Just look at that. It's a work of art. It's absolutely majestic. Maybe you want to pick somebody like, say, Paul Lambert, who, of course, captained Celtic during the Martin O'Neill era, an absolute Rolls Royce of a midfielder. Fantastic. He played alongside like Craig Bugley quite successfully, then alongside Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon, of course, is another one you could pick. Or maybe you might want somebody like Paul McStay. Now, this is, honest to God, one of my absolute favourite Celtic pictures ever taken. I just love everything about this. This picture, where they talk about the saying, Liam, a picture says 1,000 words. This, to me, is the epitome of that from a Celtic fan point of view. Paul McStay has just scored a wonder goal at Ibrox. It was a goal that would have essentially lead to his winning the league in 1988, the centenary double. It's a perfect volley with his left foot. And then he is celebrating down towards the Broomlawn, and I believe it was the enclosure as well, and the sort of main stand at Ibrox. You see Celtic fans celebrating in the background. The look on his face, where it's just like that boyhood dream, a Celtic fan, like, I've just scored against Rangers. Everything about the look on his face is just like, I love that picture so much. I cannot talk it up enough. But Paul McStay, I think, is going to get a lot of love in the chat here. And of course, when you want to talk about centre midfielders, you want to talk about a bit of shithousing, a bit of antagonising, getting under their skin. Of course, why would he not be considered in this one? It would have to be Scott Brown in there as well. He's got to be considered in the chat here. But yeah, I expect there's a lot, because there's so many options. I mean, I mentioned Neil Lennon's name there. Originally, I was like, oh, it's got to be Lennon and Bruni, just because I was thinking again about the whole shithouse thing. And I was like, but then again, midfield, you know, it's Lennon always just sat in front of the back line, and Bruni probably played his best football the further back he started to fall in his career. So I was like, that midfield, you know, other than just getting under their skin and winding them up. So I don't know. So who did you go for, Liam? Who have you got as your centre midfield partnership in this one?
I always liked Paul Lambert in the games. You know, he supported Rangers as a kid, and I think he always he went in it hard, you know. And that goal that he scored, the one it's a screamer, like 30, 40 yarder. Yeah, that's one of my favourite Celtic goals of all time.
Oh, it's brilliant. So,
I like Lambert in there. Like, I'm going to need a wee bit of smart in the middle of the field. So he'd be my one midfielder, and then, you know, we got a crazy back line, right? So I want a wee bit somebody that can play with Lambert, that's, you know, that can still bring a bit more chaos and excitement to the game. So let's put him in with Gravison and see what. So that would be my. If I was playing against them, I think you could get that. You got, you know, it's like you got two. One's calm, keep the heat, and the other one's just, you don't know what's going to.
Yeah, I mean, to put it lightly, Tom Sky, he did score twice against Rangers. He did. He scored in the 06-07 season. He scored one at Celtic Park and one at Ibrox. But yeah, I mean, you talk about absolute chaos. I mean, this is a guy that Gordon Strachan said when they played Man United at Old Trafford that season. It was just like all the instructions that Gordon Strachan had relayed to him before the game about this is your role, what to do. He was just all over the place. And I said that when we did that season, like, there's a picture out there on Google Images of Gravison walking off the park and Gordon Strachan just fucking waddling into him. And it's like, oh, man, yeah, he is absolute carnage. Jesus Christ, the very thought of a team with Lustig, bloody Mahe, Boric, Thomas Gravison. Oh my God, that's bad. A lot of people in the chat are coming out and saying, "Oh, yes, they're loving that one." But yeah, it's definitely a mad suggestion. See, my first thoughts were Bruni and Neil Lennon just to get under their skin. But I was like, no, you need a player that's a bit, bit of class, bit of flair, bit of box to box essentially. Because I say if Lennon is a guy that always sits deep, and Bruni was definitely his best the deeper he sat. A name that definitely came to my mind, always a consistent performer against them, always good for a goal against them, and somebody that I think you'll appreciate very much. Stilian Petrov, without a shadow of a doubt, growing up watching Celtic, one of the best box-to-box midfielders I've seen at the club. Just limited amounts of energy, just brilliant, man, just the way he would get forward. I say always good for a goal. He was very good at that late run into the box. There's one in particular at Ibrox, I remember, a cross comes in, he just ghosts in between the centre-backs and just gets a great header on it. But there was a free kick as well, one that he hit from the edge of the area at Ibrox, and I think it's Stefan Clausen goal, fumbles it into the net. But he was, and of course he scores in the very famous 6-2 game. Definitely coming of age moment for Stan, but I think he's in with a shout as well. Lambert, you're talking about that goal in the 2-0 game. Astounding. I mean, that goal was just, it was like the explosion, the noise, because we were beating them 1-0 at that point. It was still kind of touch and go, but it was very, very late in the day, and it hits off the post on the way in as well, just for that, just for the extra bonus points, essentially, just for it to look even more spectacular. And that was his first goal for the club. That was actually his first goal. What a way to get your first goal in that fixture of all places. But yeah, what about Neil Lennon as a player for this type of team?
No, I don't think he's too slow for my team.
Too slow for your team?
He's too slow. I want to dominate him. And I think he's got all the toughness and all that, but I think we've got plenty of that mixed in with the madness. So I'm looking for something like I'm looking to control the middle of the park. That's Lambert's going to be my anchor, and then I've got Gravison just to do whatever Bobo tells him, right? Because he'll Bobo.
Well, while we're on the subject of centre midfielders, and I know, Liam, that a couple of weeks ago you missed the show that we did on a particular guy, so I want you to get the flame shields up just now. Scott Brown, you never get a chance to tell us your feelings on him, because I think Brown's going to get a lot of love here in the chat about getting in the team and so on. So he's been the captain from 2011 to 2021. No, in fact, it was before that, 2010 he got the captaincy. And obviously he was very good at getting under their skin and so on. But what's your feelings overall on Brown? Because interestingly enough, before we did that show, you couldn't do it that night, but you did say that you were eager to come on because you've got a bit of a different view on Brown. But say, get the flame shields ready, Liam. Get them engaged. Get them up to protect yourself here.
I don't know. I just never got it. I watched him play as a player, and I get the shithousery and all that, but I don't know. I never seen him as a player. Like it's some really good goals towards the end of his career, but I remember his first season under Strachan, and I'm thinking, what do we pay all that money for? Like he didn't have, and I know he had distractions and all that stuff, but if I look at him as a football player, the years he played for, it's only maybe 3 or 4 really good seasons, and I think when we talked about the Ronnie Dyler thing as well, I think as a captain, it was like, you could have done a lot more that season, rather than sort of flinging his manager under the bus, and then the last thing was, when we were going for the 10, I don't know, like, who's the first one to leave the club and signs a pre-contract when we're still going? A captain. Anyway, I don't know, that's just me, but, a happy life, so I just,
Mate, it's your gift. It's everyone's opinion. But were you missing that show a couple of weeks ago? I was like, a bit interested now we get a chance to talk about Bruni. Here's a name that's just came up as well. Yeah. Now I'm going to assume it's autocorrect on his phone is changed it because Callum Adventures puts Tom Roddick. I'd imagine he's meant Tom Rogic, but that is a very good shout because you want to talk about Skelpers and guys that statistically did it against them. Brendan Rodgers' second season, in every game that Tom Rogic played against them that season, he scored. I think he played 4 times against them that season and scored in all of them. He beat them 2-0 at Ibrox at the start of the season, and he scored in that one. The 5-0 game that wrapped up the league, he scored there. He scored in the 4-0 Scottish Cup semi-final against them, and of course he scored in the 3-2 victory at Ibrox, the very famous one, where he also breaks a Rangers player ankle as well, if I remember right. It was David Bates, or was it Ross McCrory? It's one or the other. It's one of the two, basically. But yeah, and then he gives it the celebration running by the Copeland Road end, and it's like, aye, that's another one that he gets it, and how even though he's a classy player, but he had a wee bit of like shithousery in him and how to like get it up them essentially, Liam, didn't he?
Aye. Oh, I had him in my list as well. That it was one of the contenders because he just steer into them every time we got the ball. Do you know? And I loved the way he could just take a ball in a tight space and dance it, and not snapping at his ankles. But that's just Roger, you know. Shrugs his shoulders, and you know, I've seen him emotional when he scored that goal against them. Usually he's just like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So big. But big Tamsin with a shout.
He definitely is. The central midfield area is a tough place. But I mean, I'm looking at some of the names from the comments, and there isn't much consistency. I mean, Scott Brown's name has came up quite a lot. By the way, Liam, as well, a lot of people that are very much agreeing with you there about your opinion on Bruni. Yep.
Right.
So you're not alone, mate. You're not alone. There's a clear coming saying agree with Liam 100%.
Still Scott, like, love the guy, support him and everything he did. Just, I just don't see the cult thing, you know.
Aye, this one's a bit before my time, but yeah, Brian, Gary's going to say McLeod for that goal down at 10. I've seen obviously the footage of it, and that the 10 men won the league. It was Celtic Park, beat them 4-2, and it was I think there was like a TV strike going on because like the footage of it is like this really horrible grainy footage, because some sort of TV strike was going on, so it wasn't actually covered on TV. So the actual footage of the game is pretty rank, to be honest. And yeah, there was a game that went down near the end of the season. They beat them 4-2 with 10 men on the park as well after a player getting sent off. Murdo McLeod scores, I believe, was a trademark screamer for him. But yeah, that's him with a shout. So that's a landmark moment. Again, we want to base it on moments as well against them and the significance of them. Then that one's definitely with a shout. This is a tough one. I'm just gauging the chat. Originally, I put Scott Brown and Stan Petrov, but looking at some of the other names coming up, and I'm like, oh, it's a tough one. It's a really, really tough one. I think Paul McStay is definitely going to be in a shout. Obviously, he was staying on for the length of time that he did during the bleak time of the 90s, but he still did pop up with the important goals. I remember there was one at Ibrox under Tommy Burns. We beat them 2-0, and he scored a goal that day, pinged off the post on the way in. A shot from outside the area, hits the post. We beat them 2-0 that day. But I say that picture that I showed at the start there, McStay's celebration, that is just, for me, I say that is an iconic moment, a goal in the centenary double season at Ibrox at the Broomloan end. The celebration, I say the look on his face, it's every one of us have dreamed of that moment. As Celtic fans, just like, man, he's living. He is absolutely living it. So, I mean, Philip DeMarco says McStay's on the team sheet before the King. Wow, that's a big shout, but hey, midfield's such an important area. We do need a classy one in there. Does McStay and Thomas Gravison balance it for you pretty well, Liam? What do you think of that?
Aye, that could work.
Oh, wow. You just want Thomas Gravison in there. You just want to watch the world burn. I love it, mate. Just ping a grenade in there and just watch it all go off. But yeah. Also, Alistair Jack, I know you're bringing up John Collins' name. He's definitely in the consideration for the wide midfielders. I think he was more a wide midfielder, wasn't he, than a central midfielder. But we're a bit dynamic. We're not like we've only got one style of play here. We can move some players around. So his name, I think, is going to come up very, very soon. Let's see, what have we got? We get Patrick McGowan saying McStay, Brown. It's going to be, I prefer McStay. He's also got Lubo's name in there again. Could fall in the wide midfield. Jinky, I'd say wide midfield again, but we'll be getting to those in a few moments. So, yeah, this is going to be a tough one. So, I'm looking through the comments to see what the sort of general consensus is, and it's very, very split. This one, Alistair Jack saying there's another recent one again. Callum McGregor. Even before getting the captaincy and stuff, I think McGregor was putting in some good moments. I mean, the goal in the semi-final in 2017, the one where, because of the way Hampden is built and you've got the 50-50 split, and when you score down at the other end, if you're in the stadium and your team scores at the opposite end, depending where you are, sometimes you will get a bit of a delayed reaction because you're like, did that go in? Like, you can't tell. The goal that McGregor scores in that semi-final, the one, it's a long ball from Lustig, Dembele chases it down into his path, and he just passes it into the net, but it's the noise that the goal frame makes as it hits the back of the net. Like the metal frame that holds up the net just seems to make this sort of like clinking noise around the stadium, and it echoes for like a second around the stadium, and it's just like the most satisfying sound. And then you get the roar for the Celtic fans at the end because they realise it's a goal. It's that is a great one. And of course, we beat them 5-1 that season as well. And he passed the ball into the net at Ibrox in the league game there. And then the next season we beat them 4-0 in the Scottish Cup semi-final. He scored that day and all, so he's definitely had his moments against them. Definitely had them. So Callum McGregor would be a decent shout as well. So yeah, going through here. So try to gauge with the chat who's like the most common name that's came up. So Scott Brown has been very, very commonly coming up. McStay definitely. Let's see what else we've got. San Francisco saying that Callum McGregor with McStay works. It does. But yeah, so I guess we could put it to the chat then. So
Do you know who AI had?
Who did AI have? Let's see who AI have. Let's see if they can give us a casting vote here.
Scott Brown.
Scott Brown, okay. Right.
Yeah. And Paul McStay.
I think that seems like quite a logical choice. Did they give any AI reasons as to why?
It says Scott Brown, a recent captain, long-serving midfielder for Celtic. Brown has been a key player in many victories over Rangers, including a memorable 5-1 win in 2016. Paul McStay, a stylish midfielder who played for Celtic throughout the 80s and 90s. McStay was known for his ability to control games and was a thorn in Rangers' side on many occasions. So
I can't disagree with that. I think McStay and Brown seems quite logical. So, chat, are you quite happy with McStay and Scott Brown being the midfield tandem here? Let's see what the chat say. Alan Wood says Bruni and the Maestro, so he's okay with that one. Although Ryan Taylor's comment was funny, I'll go with Brown and Hattati. Some are too old for me. Oh, I did have Hattati. I did say, and you've said it on here, Liam, you think Hattati's got the potential to become a Skelper, definitely after the performances he's put in so far against them.
I think, definitely.
The San Francisco says, we've got a thumbs up from Celts on the Hill. Where's all the love for Aaron Moy? That's what I want to know here on the bus. If Russell was here, he would pick Aaron Moy. There you go.
Nice.
So it looks like Bruni and McStay. I had Bruni and Petrov as my two in the centre midfield, but there are so many options, man. It is an embarrassment of riches, man. It really is. Just some of the centre mids we've had over the years. There's if I Joseph McGonigal saying no pace, I would go with Stan, but yeah, Ryan Taylor, yes. I said the last night my prediction. I'm hoping to hear that song belted out tomorrow because I had made a outlandish prediction that we'll get a penalty and Aaron Moy will tuck it away. So there we go. Right, but yeah, we'll go with McStay and Scott Brown on this one. It seems to be that the masses seem happy with that one, so we'll stick with it. So wide midfielders left and right. Now, there's a lot of things that could be interchangeable here because there are players that are two-footed. We've seen it just this season where Jota sometimes plays on the left and sometimes plays on the right. So it's not necessarily set in stone that we can move some people around here to make it happen. So again, I've got some suggestions on both sides. I'll just go through them all. And again, but there's going to be loads are going to come up here in the chat. It's going to be if I was Ryan Taylor and Bobby Petter. I don't even thought of that one, but when you want to talk about just an iconic moment, nearly making Fernando Rickson cry in that 6-2 game is iconic. The look of horror in Fernando Rickson's face that day. That was a deer trapped in the headlights. So hey, Bobby Petter, you never know. You might get in here. The way this team's coming together so far with some of the characters we've got, you never know. But let's have a wee look at some of the names you might want to go for the wide midfielders. So naturally, I've got Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, okay, granted, many people say he didn't really do it consistently against Rangers, but he does have that goal in that game, the 2-1, the game that pretty much got us right back into the title race when we looked dead and buried. It's for me, I've said it many times, my favourite game I've ever went to between Celtic and Rangers is that one, because there's nothing better than a last-minute goal. But see that goal Nakamura scored in that game, that's still one of the best goals I've had the pleasure of seeing in person. It was absolutely sublime. From the view that I was sitting at, the bend on it was unbelievable. So we're talking about a guy who's just got a great moment against him. Nakamura could be a shout. What about Scott Sinclair, who, of course, came in Brendan's first season, had a great run against them. It was a consistently good performer against them over the first couple of seasons under Brendan. So I think Scott Sinclair's in with a shout. Naturally, we're talking about a wide midfield. I'm talking about Skelpers. I've got a funny feeling this guy's a definite for the team. Alan Thompson, many people would say he is the definitive Skelper. Obviously played it in the left midfield under Martin O'Neill. Fantastic goal ratio as well against them. And definitely had, how shall we say it, definitely had contempt for the opposition, to put it lightly. We talked earlier on about Artur Boric and his habit of getting in a bit of a rammy. Alan Thompson loved a bit of a rammy against him, so I think Alan Thompson's a shout. Now, this one is definitely needs to be spoken about, because despite how grim the 1990s were, we would get the occasional win against Rangers from time to time, and John Collins was always one of the shining lights in that type of fixtures. I believe the stat is he scored, is he the first to score with the Adidas Predator boots, Liam, with the free kick at Ibrox?
That's right, aye, he was.
He bends in fact, that could be, that picture I've used might actually be the goal celebration from that day at Ibrox. But yeah, he scores. There was no Celtic fans there that day, interestingly enough. Here we are in 2023, and history is going to be repeating itself. But yeah, he's definitely in with a shout. Had a few good goals against him and a few good moments. I think Collins is definitely, in a very, very dark time, a shining light without a shadow of a doubt. Obviously, I think this guy's going to be very popular. Lubo Moravcik, two-footed. I mean, we did a whole episode on him, talking about how great he was. He's got a brace against him, and not his debut, but it was his second game for the club. But what a way to basically announce yourself, scoring 2 in his debut in the game at Ibrox in 2001. He scores 2 again, despite being, 35 years old at that point. The way he outpaces, I believe it's Fernando Rickson and him are chasing the same ball, outpaces him, catches it, cuts inside and bends it in at the near post. Lubo Moravcik, just an absolute magician. And it's not just those few goals he got against them. There were just other great moments of skill. And he's heavily involved in the 6-2 game as well. In fact, I think it's his corner that Stan Petrov scores the diving header at the back post. Now, here's one that's going to be a bit contentious. But again, if you're going to base it on just what they did against Rangers and not think about how he left the club, and you may think he's a bit of an arse now, but somebody like Chris Commons, who was a consistently good performer against him, particularly Neil Lennon's first couple of seasons. He would always pop up with a goal and an assist against him. So Commons was always, I always felt, regardless of what I think about Commons now, and he is a bit of a prick, he's clearly got a chip on his shoulder at the way he left Celtic. I can't deny, phenomenal player, and definitely had some great moments against Rangers. Here's another guy who, funny enough, earlier on, I used a Hatate picture and said, man, the look of despair in Connor Goldson's face. Here's another one, this James Forrest picture. Look at Connor Goldson there. Absolute art. Fine art there. So James Forrest, obviously, he took him a wee bit to get started against Rangers, but that goal in particular, and again, it's that game. This game keeps coming up. Every single week, I feel like I'm talking about this one particular game because so much stuff happened. But yeah, with a matter of minutes to go, a game that we've got to win to essentially get us out of sight in the title race. James Forrest pops up in the last couple of minutes and scores against them. And yeah, he has been a consistent performer at Celtic for many, many years now. And again, if you want to make it more recent and talk about guys who could be a scalper for years to come, what about Wheeler Badder, who of course just ghosts in at the back post so many times and scores Borna Barisic's worst nightmare. But yeah, he's got a bit of potential given what he's done so far in the short time he's been at the club. He's in with a shout as well, but there's plenty to choose from, guys. So, Liam, who have you got as your wide midfielders in your team?
All right, I'm going to go very recent as well. So I think we've got a solid core, and I've got a nice crazy back line. I need to put talent and skill. There's nobody, right, so I want Jota. On my wing.
Jota on the wing. Okay, a recent one, right? Okay.
I'm predicting it right now because I think he watches the bus. Seems a good lad. I think I should have a tea or plate of paella or whatever it is.
Mind and hit the like button, Jota, please.
With that,
I said, mind and hit the like button, Jota, if you're watching, please. And go over to piesports.com, Jota, and get yourself a wee discount, I know.
I think he's watching this and he's seen that Paul McStay picture. Well, the fan, and I think he's did that. And I think tomorrow he's due a screamer. He's due another one. I mean, that goal, the one where he chipped McGregor, it was pure fun. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's seen that picture and he's thinking, okay, you know, he did the Jimmy Johnson fist to the sky, die sort of pose. That was iconic. We need another T-shirt. We need something else to do. So see him doing the Paul McStay celebration tomorrow.
I mean, that goal, I think I said at the time when we beat them 4-0 early in the season, like that chip from the angle he did it, I just feel like it deserves more like praise it's getting. I think you can put it up there with some of the goals we've seen Larsson scored over the years. I know the Larsson one where he nutmegs Cornerman and stuff like that and loves course. That's going to be on that's immortal, you know. But I think Jota's one is astounding. The technique. It's a great first time pass from O'Reilly. Perfect weight on it, everything. Runs in, doesn't need to take a touch to steady himself, and just hits it on the run as the angle is getting away from him the whole time. And just dinks it over him. And the celebration is phenomenal just in front of the small cluster of Rangers fans who will not be present tomorrow. But yeah, Jota, that's a good shout. When I was thinking the modern day ones, I was like, well, Abada for the nightmares he's been given, Barisic, but Jota, to be fair, has got a nice wee run going against him. And if he could provide another one like that tomorrow, that would be much appreciated. Fantastic goal. So who else have you got on the other side to balance it with Jota?
Lubo.
Yeah.
Skilled doing the wings. Two of the most technically gifted, two-footed players. You're going to run it on both sides. They can switch either wing. I think they give them absolute nightmares. So,
yeah, that's a good shot. Lubo say two-footed as well. You know, you're a player of that class who can play on either side. It's definitely advantageous. And the Jota, as I said earlier on, he's played on both sides as well this season, going left on the right side. So, nice balance here. Now, I've actually gone for, I had to put Alan Thompson in the team because, again, when I think of the word Skelper, or the full word that it is, he's always the first guy that I envision. In my lifetime, he's like the first one that I remember that term being used for during the Martin O'Neill era because, he just had that knack of getting into the right place at the right time. Popping up with some astounding goals along the way, and as I say, he loved a good rammy against him, to say the least. He definitely got stuck in. Although there was a few times I felt he was a bit hard done by. The Peter Lovenkrantz one in particular at Ibrox, where he sort of feigns injury from, anyway, basically claims he got headbutted, but it wasn't. He just Lovenkrantz overdoes it a little bit, to say the least, and sadly, Thompson ends up getting his marching orders. But he had a few red cards against him, but he had that dig. And so for me, Thompson would always be in the team for me in that one. And the other side was tough because, again, this is hard. There's so many good wide midfielders. And again, I can only really just base it on sort of like my lifetime in that. And I think Wubo is probably the strongest shout there because of the technical ability he's got. But then again, I was going, how good was Scott Sinclair, though, in that first season in particular? Jesus Christ. Overall, I mean, he was phenomenal the entire season, but against Rangers as well. He scored in his first game against him, the 5-1 game at Celtic Park. He scored at Ibrox, the winning goal that day. He scores in the Cup semi-final from the penalty spot, if I remember correctly. That would have been he was really good. So that is a tough one. I mean, I'm looking at some of the names. Let's see what some of the folk are saying. Oh my God, Patrick McLaughlin, Di Canio, the nutter. Well, he certainly was a nutter. Well, I mean, could you imagine that? This team, Di Canio as well added to that. My God. I think the problem with Di Canio is he was a gifted player, no doubt about it. And that season that he played for Celtic was obviously the Three Amigos season, the whole rock and roll football with Van Hooijdonk, Cadet, Di Canio. Naturally, since Di Canio has left Celtic, obviously his political allegiances and stuff certainly don't line up with many Celtic fans. So that's went against him. But also the season that he did play for us, we didn't win anything. Ultimately, Rangers beat us in every league game. They won their 9th title in a row. And that's and obviously he left the club under a bit of a cloud. So, and it's weird because I've said this before on the bus where guys like Cadetti and Van Hooijdonk, less so Di Canio, but Cadetti and Van Hooijdonk both left the club under sort of, shady circumstances where it was all contract disputes, and when we were kind of down and needed them, you get Pierre Van Hooijdonk going on strike and stuff, and then there's other people that have left the club years later and they're always deemed a rat and stuff like that. But guys like Cadet and Van Hooijdonk are welcome back to Celtic Park with open arms. Oh, legends and all that. And it's like, but they kind of left the club in bit shady circumstances. Di Canio, of course, was refusing to play. Came back, played one pre-season friendly under Janssen, and then was refusing to play after that till he got a move. But yeah, definitely. If we were going for a team of absolute nutters, then Di Canio would be in there with Lustig and Mahe, and probably Enrico Annoni as well, to be fair. He'd probably get in that, and Thomas Gravison. That could be a team we could do in the future. The Nutters 11, just total maniacs. We'll base it just on that, Liam. Here's another name that's came up, by the way. Aidan McGeady.
Yeah, I know. Another great player.
Aye.
What about Samaras?
By the way, do you know, Samaras was in my mind where I was like, well, he came to the club as a striker, but he wasn't really the prolific goal scorer. Even though he wore number 9 on his back, he wasn't the quintessential number 9. And he became a lot better under Lennon. And Lennon deployed him as a wide forward, like a sort of wide midfield, wide in the wing on the left-hand side. And he was brilliant, just marauding in or just coming down that wing. Defenders didn't know how to deal with him. They're like, this big, lanky, long-haired Greek guy running at them, where if Samaras doesn't know what he's going to do next, and the defender doesn't even know what he's going to do next, and it's like, how do I deal with this guy? And he definitely had that, you get Samaras Sunday, the iconic moment. He's definitely, that's another one with the whole, if we're going for an iconic moment, just basing it on something like that, Samaras would be in with a shout. But yeah, he did put in some decent performances against Rangers, particularly under Lennon. So that was an interesting one. What's this? Oh God, Joseph McGorrigo saying you need to build a naughty corner at Lennoxtown for this team, Phil. Aye, we definitely would. I said earlier on, Ange would just look at this team in the dressing room and be like, what do I even do with this? San Fran Celtic says this team needs a Twitter account. Aye, they do. They certainly do. Oh man, maniac team. So I'm looking through the comments just to see. I mean, Brian McGarry's saying Lobo and Jimmy Johnston. Obviously, I'm well before my time. But you don't need to I don't need to sit here and go, I never saw him play. That I know how Jimmy Johnston was. He's been voted Celtic's greatest ever player for a reason. For a shadow of doubt. I mean, I've seen again when you look back at all the archive footage and you hear all the stories about the wee character that he was as well. I mean, there's one game in particular, and again, it goes back in those days, when they played football. Didn't matter what the weather conditions were, Liam, they were just playing any sort of condition. And there's a game at Ibrox where I think Celtic officially win the league that day by drawing at Ibrox, and it's a goal that, see if you saw a player do it in modern day football, that whole cut inside and basically bend it right into the top corner, like an Arjen Robben style move that Arjen Robben was famed for. It's a goal that he scores at Ibrox that gets Celtic win the league that day officially by drawing 2-2. But the pitch is just an absolute cowpack. It's just a mess, just covered in mud. And but he just weaves in on his left foot and just bends into the top corner that day. And it's like, oh man, brilliant. This some player, and I say some character when you hear all the stories about him. So I think Jimmy Johnston, without a shadow of a doubt, would have to be considered. And say he's actually scored a goal there, as I say, that day that won Celtic the league against Rangers. So yeah, that's definitely a shout for a shadow of doubt. So I'm voting through to see if there's anything else. Joseph, we got to be a bit late with that one because we did the centre mids earlier. Robson and Hartley, I forgot to mention them. We were doing the centre mids as a partnership. Jesus Christ, they got us over the line that season for a shadow of a doubt. Ryan Taylor just saying about Paddy Roberts, lovely on the eye, technically gifted. He was indeed. It's a shame the way the careers went for Paddy Roberts, because he's basically just been passed around from club to club by the City Group, because all the clubs he went on loan to were all teams that were under the City Group umbrella. Girona, Troy, stuff like that. But I think he's now full time at Sunderland. But what could have been? Jinky's name coming up a few times again as well. There you go. There, Bobby Lennox getting mentioned, the Buzz Bomb. And he's got longevity as well, because somebody did point out in the chat that he was still playing for Celtic in 1980. I think he had a spell away playing in America and came back late in his career and was still doing the business at Celtic. But I believe he is the most decorated player in Celtic's history in terms of trophies won. I think it's Lennox that's number one in that case. But man, there's a lot of talent to choose from here, Liam. This is tough. This is a tough one.
So you know who AI had, Phil?
Who's AI got?
That Lubo Moravcik, a skillful midfielder who joined Celtic in '98. Moravcik was a fan favourite and scored several important goals against Rangers.
He did.
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson.
A diminutive winger who played for Celtic in the 60s and 70s. Johnson was a wizard with the ball at his feet and was a constant threat to Rangers. There you go.
Interesting. We've got another suggestion coming up as well that's came in. Marky Plano was saying Tommy Burns. Yes, Tommy Burns as well is another one. I know. We've got the ultimate Celtic man as well. What a player. Right. What a great manager. What a great Celtic man. Just everything, just oh man. Just so in 2008. I mean, I went down to the stadium in 2008, obviously when the tragic news that he passed away, and how somber it was outside, man. It was tough. Like, wow. It was a hard, because when I first began getting into football in '94, obviously he became the Celtic manager, and I went to Celtic Park quite a lot in sort of '96, '97 season, the Three Amigos season. Me and my dad would get tickets for quite a lot of the games, and again, Tommy Burns was the manager that year, and it's tragic as well from a manager point of view that it's like the one manager you wanted to just get that league title was Tommy. So as a player, unbelievable. I'll never ever forget the clip. It's the end of the '88 Scottish Cup final, the centenary double. He's getting interviewed by Jim White on the park, and he's talking about going up to the hospital to visit a wee boy, a Celtic fan. He's like, I'll be up on Monday to see you. And he turns to Celtic fans, this is all for them. They're there and they're always there, and God bless every one of them. So he's again just you can't. There's not enough good things you can say about Tommy Burns. It's an astounding man, and he's a highly gifted player as well. I had many successes against Rangers as a player, so he's definitely in the contention here. Going back to one of the names that I had in my sort of list in suggestions, John Collins. What's your opinions on him as a player? So as I say, during that bleak time in the 90s, and I think he gets tarred with that brush because he played there and there wasn't much success. But when you do go back and look at the footage, he does have his moments against Rangers. Say the free kick, the bend that he gets on it around the wall at Ibrox, hits the post and goes in. But John Collins is definitely in with a shout. Don't be fooled by the fact that it was a pretty poor Celtic team for that era.
Aye. So if you're putting together an engine room, he's a definite. He's a Rolls Royce. That's a Rolls Royce engine you get with him. Even just when watching him with Scotland against Brazil in that game in France, he did not look out of place in that park. And we're listening to the commentary and all that. I was watching it here in Canada, and they were talking about him, John Collins. It was a world-class player we were watching. And I'll put a team, Collins in the middle with Gravison.
You just put Thomas Gravison in there, mate. You just love that Tommy.
Collins, he did explode. Could you imagine him?
Would? John Collins would not know how to deal with him at all. Like, Jesus, man. Yeah, it was I say Collins. I mean, there's another one in particular, like an assist that he has at Ibrox against Rangers. Do you remember a goal that Paul Burns scored in '95? It was like a pinged ball across the park, and he runs in and volleys it. It's the New Year game in '95, but the pass is originally from John Collins. Brilliant, perfect weight on it, everything, left foot, and just pings it right across like a big diagonal from the touchline to basically the sort of the far side of the box, and Paul Byrne runs in and just connects it perfectly. And Celtic get an equaliser that day, but it was that. Some of the moments that he had. So don't be fooled by the fact that Collins played in a rank rotten Celtic team that didn't have much success. He was one of the few shining lights during that era. But yeah, we've got that time now. We've got to obviously decide. We've got a lot. So between us, I went with Thompson and Lubo. You've got Lubo and who's the other one you had? Jota. So Lubo is the common denominator so far. And you said that the AI had Lubo in its choices. So I guess on that basis, Lubo is definitely in, but the other place is up for grabs because Lubo can play left or right because he's two-footed. But yeah, who's the other one? Say maybe Alan Thompson. Is he a shout? Say we talked about Skelpers. Say maybe you want to go further back. Say Tommy Burns, Jimmy Johnston. We'll see what the chat have to say. So yeah, chat, it's over to you now. You can, again, for the next minute or so, just batter in the names and I'll try and gauge which one comes in the most and we'll add them to the team. But yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches, the wide midfield, isn't it? It really is, Liam.
Aye.
It's tough. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a manager trying to pick this team. Like, for real, if this was somehow a scenario that could happen, you'd be like, Jesus Christ. Players going to be knocking on my door saying, man, we're getting a game here, Gaffer. What's unbelievable, the moments and that. Say earlier on, obviously, Bobby Peters' name got suggested, and we're talking about a moment just going on that. You're like, well, if we're going to base it on stuff like that, he's definitely got that iconic moment. For a shadow of doubt. So let's see, we've got Tommy, Jinky, bit mixed, 50-50 so far. Tommy. Dalhal's liking the jot on the wing. Treble is on. Yes, it is indeed. Stephen Murdoch says we'll have to make it 16 aside. Yeah, I think so, aye. Well, I mean, some people will tell you. In fact, the judge is in the chat now. The judge will happily tell you we're probably playing against 14 tomorrow. He's probably not wrong, to be fair. We do... yeah, we're definitely up against it, especially with the allegations that have come to light this week about what's been heard on microphones and when it comes to VAR. Yes, so hopefully we're not up against that type of scenario tomorrow. But yeah, so at the moment, I said obviously, for the chat to put in, so we've got Tommy and Jinky. It's quite, boys have replied so far, it's quite equal. I think either way, it's a win either way, I would say, on this one. Can't have Jinky wonder why Gravson gets a game ahead of him. You're probably right. Although Gravson didn't make it in the team, but Liam's determined to get Gravson in, so I would be surprised if Liam suggests him for the striker here, just to get him in. We'll make him the honorary substitute, Thomas Gravson, just for being the maniac he is. He can be the sub. But yeah, do you know what? We'll go on the basis as well. What Sam Fan says there, but also Jimmy Johnston was actually voted Celtic's best ever player. So we will put Jimmy Johnston in there because I don't think we lose out either way in that one, whether it was Tommy Burns or whether it was Jimmy Johnston. But it's hard to pick because there are so many good players, as we've just demonstrated there. Whittling it down was pretty tough. So far, we've got Boric, we've got Lustig, Bobo, Roy Aitken, Stefan Mahe, mad, Jimmy Johnston, Scott Brown, Paul McStay, and Lubomir Moravchik so far in the Skelpers 11. So now we go on to the front two, or the front one, because I'm going to take a guess here, Liam, and I think many of the chat will agree. I think Henrik Larsson's in your team, mate. Am I right in saying that?
I was thinking the other Swedish striker we had, John Guidet.
John Guidet, the guy who promised he was going to score a hat-trick against Rangers and then did not. Yes, that guy. Aye.
Yeah, it's got to be Larsson. Larsson's like, did you see them showing Jota on the iPad?
Watching it, yeah.
And he's making all the wee noise, all ding, ding, boom, boom. You're like, he's watching that. That's very much like the goal he scored in the last one. Nah, I hope, anyway.
Yeah. Larsson, I mean, it was,
Larsson.
Again, he has to be in there. He doesn't score even tap-ins against him. You look at his actual highlight reel of goals against Rangers. He just the collection of them, and you can't put it into words. And again, it just pains me that there's people who, again, outside the Scottish football, they just don't get it. They just look at Larsson, no matter what we tell them, you don't understand how good this guy is. You don't get it. And they'll just go, okay, it's only because he played in Scotland, stat padding and all that. And it's like, this guy, he proved it. He went away and played for Barcelona, and after us, ended up winning La Liga twice and won a Champions League. And it's like, you don't get how good this guy really was. It's like, this guy's exceptional. But yeah, the goals he scores, obviously the one in the 6-2 game, that's the one that stands the test of time. I've said before, though, my actual favourite goal that he scored against them came in a game that we didn't actually win. We drew 3 each in 2002. So Didier Agat's out wide and plays like a sort of low-driven cross to the sort of edge of the area, or just inside the 18-yard box. And I think it's Craig Moore is like really tight behind Larson, like marking him. So Larson's got his back to goal, and in one sweeping move, he controls it with his right foot, and it bounces up, and he turns and volleys it with his left foot into the top corner, and it's astounding. I'm just like the technique in that and how quickly he did it, just like on the turn, one sweeping move to do it. I was just like, that goal's unbelievable. And again, because the goal from the 6-2 game, you know, I mean, that is, I say, it's immortal, that goal. But that one I fucking love it. I mean, here's Patrick McLaughlin saying that's my favourite goal as well. 3-3 game. It's astounding. And maybe it's also because it's in a game that we didn't win. And also it's a season where we actually didn't win anything because that's the Seville season. Maybe that's why it gets forgotten. But my God, the technique in that goal was out of this world. And you might remember this one, Liam. Do you remember a goal as well where he also chipped Kloss, but it's the League Cup semi-final in the same season as the 6-2 game? He puts Bob Malcolm on his arse and then lifts the ball over Stefan Kloss, chases it as it falls out the sky and taps it into the net. And it was just like, this guy, man, he doesn't score rubbish goals against Rangers as well. Just, what can you really say? I mean, it's just, Skelpers are just, they escaped me.
Turnbull scored a goal just like that earlier this year.
So he did against Dundee United. Yes, he did, actually. Yeah.
Only he was more static. Henrik was doing it while he was on the run. Like, moving, speed when he did it, you know. And, it was just what a goal. But you can sit here, we could talk all night about Henrik Larsson goals. So, he's their striker. That's
yeah, he's definitely in the team. No doubt about it. Because we need to now pick a strike partner for Henrik, and he fought in the midfield, and that was tough then. Jesus Christ! So obviously we've got Henrik. He's in. He had to be in. There's no doubt about it. So welcome aboard, Henrik. I'd say he was already on the bus when I got on there. And he's just like, come on, driver, who's my teammates tonight? So let's take a look at some striker suggestions. But again, there's going to be loads. So you could go for Moussa Dembele, who many people have said that since Larsson left is the best striker that we've had. Those fans have said that. I also love that celebration. Fantastic. It's got the Mexico City 1968 vibes about it, I believe, is the year the Olympics was. And it's that's also in front of the Copeland Road end after he just scored what I like to call a thunder bastard of an equaliser. He's just sort of walking away from them and he's got the fist in there. And it's like, yeah, I like that. Get it right up them. John Hartson, he loved a goal against Rangers. Of course, he very nearly signed for Rangers and they knocked him back on the whole the fitness issues, the field fitness test. Of course, he then signs for us a year later. How different it could have been, but my God, he absolutely loves Celtic. He's even got the old tattoo on his arm, the big Celtic badge on his arm, but he's always talking up his time at Celtic. I've just deeply ingrained in him now. Loved a goal against Rangers, loved bodying their defenders all over the place. Many great moments against them, so definitely fits in the Skelper category. What about somebody like Gary Hooper, who again had another prolific record against them, scored some fantastic goals? That's obviously from the famous 3-0 game. That might be just after the one that Izagiri crossed. Remember I'd said earlier on stuff, Izagiri's run that day, sticks it across back post, and Gary Hooper taps it in. And then, of course, I mean, he's a favourite on the bus. He was a favourite of Henrik Larsson's alongside him. Chris Sutton, I mean, it would be criminal if Chris Sutton didn't make it, but then again, the talent that you can choose from is astounding here. So that's just a couple of suggestions. Let's see what is presented to us here. So Liam, who do you have partnering Henrik up front in this Skelper 11?
Well, Phil, you left out the best one.
Oh,
Kenny.
okay.
You can have two Kings.
You could, yes. Oh, no doubt about it.
Kenny Dalglish.
Kenny Dalglish. It's a name I've seen coming up a few times. Those
there. Phenomenal up front together.
Oh, just Jesus.
Liverpool with was that Russian that and who was playing with there. And Kenny Dalglish would be a perfect with Henrik up front, and they would absolutely destroy Rangers, the two of them.
No, that is a very fair shout. I actually had Chris Sutton on my one just on the basis it was tried and tested. And again, if we're going down the Skelpers route and being a bit of an antagonist, Chris Sutton certainly was that. He certainly still is that because he likes to still wind them up with his newspaper articles and little cheeky tweets here and there. where he just reels them in. He just casts the fishing rod out there and he's just sitting there all day like, I could do this, no problem. This is just catching them all day. So I put Chris Sutton in there because I say the tried and tested partnership. And the thing is as well, the goals that he scored against them, and being obviously the big guy, everyone thinks he must just score like headers and stuff like that. But Sutton, the technique that he had, and again, people don't understand how good this guy was. Obviously the one that comes to mind is the lob at the end of the green and whitewash season. Phenomenal. I mean, the technique to do it at that point in the game as well was like 90 minutes or something on the clock. He just bodies Frank de Boer to the side, just like, get out of the way, you. And then to chip Stefan Klos the way he did, the technique in it was phenomenal. And yeah, the celebrations after it were fantastic. So I'd actually went for Chris Sutton. What about the AI? What did AI Russell Boyce vote for?
Henrik Larsson, of course, arguably the greatest ever player. 240 goals for the club. Thorn in Rangers side through its time in Scotland.
Yes.
Yep. I copied it. Kenny Dalglish.
Kenny Dalglish. That's
Dalglish scored over 100 goals for the club and played a key role in many Old Firm victories, including a 4-2 win in the 79 Scottish Cup final. But he was world class, you know, and I think he's just absolutely boss Rangers with him and Henrik playing together.
Yeah,
that whole team's got I don't know, like velocity to it, you know, be rapid, but be hard at the same time.
It feels to me like the way the team's coming together is like it starts at the back, just absolute maniacs, but it seems to get classier as it goes further forward. Seems like it balances itself out. Like the back line is just absolute madness, just like, but the midfield and the forwards, there's a bit of panache there, a bit of class. So yeah, it seems to be so. I'm going through the comments here, and it looks like Kenny Dalglish's name's come up. There's Frank McAvenny. There's an interesting one. Let's see what other names we've got here. Del Hallow throwing some names in the hat. Obviously, Larson, Dalglish, Hooper. Yeah, there's a wee vote for Gary Hooper. Patrick McLaughlin saying he loved Brian McClare. He was another one that obviously went down to England. Man United snatched him away, and he had many successful years at Man United. But he is, of course, part of the Love Street title victory, the Albert Kidd day. Albert Kidd scores 2 at Dens Park, stops Hearts winning, and we had to beat St Mirren by 3 goals and beat them 5-0. And yeah, unfortunately, the best goal of that day is finished off by somebody that many Celtic fans don't wish to even speak his name, but it's still a really good goal, to be fair. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that it's finished off by him, Mojo. But yeah, Brian McClure did play that day, did score as well. But there's the famous moment. I think it's Paddy Bonner's got the ball in his hand and he's about to punt it out, and there's all the Celtic fans behind him, and they all just erupt. And the commentator, I think he's like Jerry McNee or somebody's on commentary, and he's like, "Oh, that must mean a goal for Dundee," because obviously they've all got the radios out. No, I've heard that Dundee have just scored. Brian McClure was obviously a massive part of that Celtic team. Let's see what else we've got here in terms of names. I saw Sutton and Hartson's names coming up as well. Interesting one, that. I'm assuming that'll be Charlie Nick that Pia Neal's talking about.
Ooh.
Charlie Nick, yeah. Another one a bit like McClare, where he gets snatched away by the rich. Well, I say the riches at that point, though. The English Premier League wasn't a thing, but yeah, he obviously chased the bright lights of London at the time. But Charlie Nicholas, from what I've been told and what I see in the archive footage, like he's a special talent when he burst on the scene. So I'd assume that the Charlie he's talking about is Charlie Nick. Stephen Murdoch coming in saying Scott McDonald. He did have a few scalping moments, by the way. If you want to talk again about moments against them, no doubt about it. Like, he did have something. I mean, the one at Ibrox, the 2008-2009 season, is one of those Ian Crocker commentary lines that's always etched in my brain, but it's like Samaras, McDonald, can he shake off Broadfoot? Yes, he can. And he volleys it right in the top corner. It's phenomenal. In fact, there's Patrick McLaughlin also giving a shout for old Skippy, because there's a game the season before. I talked earlier on about the Vennegoor Hesselink last minute winner, but we played them like 11 days later and beat them 3-2. Barry Robson scores the penalty, but Scott McDonald scored 2 that day as well. And one of them was, if VAR was around then, 100% it's getting chopped off. The first goal that day was we definitely got a wee bit lucky on that one. We got away with it that day. It was a long ball flighted up to Vennegoor and he heads it over to McDonald, and he's definitely a yard in front of the play, but we got away with that one. Anyway, it's all done and dusted, but if VAR was around then, might not get away with it. What have we got here? Sutton and Hearts in there getting a shout. FJT coming in and saying French Eddie. Again, I've championed Edward. Like, I wouldn't put him necessarily in this team, but in talking about like Skelpers and moments, he's definitely had them, and I don't think he seems to have a real tarnished reputation. I think a lot of it's based on how the 10 in a row attempt went. But you got to remember that boy still scored like 23, 24 goals that season. It's no his fault that John Joe Kenny was giving away corner kicks from the halfway line that Rangers were scoring off of. So Eddie was always a decent player, so I'm always quite happy to champion him. Ryan Taylor saying Musa. And so, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. So, oh my God. What? Cascarino. Well, he did score an equalising goal at Ibrox. I've talked about this one before. There's a very infamous moment where he got sarcastically cheered onto the park by the Rangers faithful. And I believe Nigel Spackman tries to play a back pass and it just completely overshoots the mark. And Tony Cascarino nips in there and scores to salvage a draw that day for Celtic. So he has got that on his CV. It's like we mentioned Tony Warner earlier on. He's got something on his CV that he can point to and go, I did that. So Cascarino has got that, but somehow I don't think Cascarino's going to make the cut on this one. But yeah, let's put it to the chat. I think Kenny Dalglish is a very, very good shout. But yeah, for the next minute or so, the chat, who's partnering Henrik Larsson up front in this one? Kenny Dalglish, Moussa Dembele, Chris Sutton, somebody else. So I'll see for the next minute and see what names come in. So chat, throw the names in there and we'll go for the general consensus. I don't think there's a bad answer here. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think anything's going to work out on this one. So although Liam definitely wants it to be Thomas Gravesen converted into a striker without a shadow of a doubt. You're determined to get Tommy Gravesen in there.
Put the fear right into them. By the way, Lee Griffith, primetime Lee Griffiths was unstoppable against them. Scored some shout. Yep. About the time he was banging them in for Scotland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just again earlier on when we were doing the wide midfields. Remember, I brought up like Chris Commons and I said, look, regardless of what you may think about him now, think about what he did in the shot against them in particular. It's like, so Lee Griffiths falls in a category. I mean, the game that we beat them 5-1, the goal he scores that day, they beat them 5-1 at Ibrox, and then he runs over, I think does the corner flag celebration, he just like stands with his hand on the corner flag, like, I now own this place, you know? And then there's the one he scores the next season as he runs by the Broomlow and somebody throws a scarf on, and he waves the scarf as he runs by the Govan stand. And then, of course, I think that might be the same game as well, where he ties a scarf onto the goalpost. But Griffiths was a phenomenal player. There's no doubt about it. So it's I don't think I say there's many wrong answers here, although there are some quite interesting ones coming in. Jerry Craney says again what I said earlier on, by the way, with the John Collins thing. If you actually look at a lot of the games that we win during the sort of bleak time of the 90s, Jerry Craney's actually quite a prolific goal scorer against them. I think he scores in they called the St. Patrick's Day Massacre. There's a Scottish Cup victory in 91, which may be the game that Terry Butcher or Graham Souness kicked in a door at Celtic Park. Maybe I'm getting mixed up with another one, but yeah, I think Jerry Craney scores that day. He dumped them out the cup. But yeah, we've got Joseph McGonagall just for the shithouse today. Chris Sutton for him, Jeremy McGrory, Henrik Cadet. We've got a few names coming in. Andy Walker. Well, that's quite topical, I guess. Celts on the Hill. I guess he's topical at the moment. He did score, and earlier on when I talked about the Paul McStay celebration, Andy Walker scored the other goal that day at Ibrox when we beat them. King Kyogo, God. So let's go through, see what's here. See how many times. Let's see. Kenny Dalglish. Yeah, his name's yeah. Going through from the chat, I would say Dalglish has got the most acknowledgement, most votes there. So yeah, well, I guess we'll put Kenny Dalglish in there. So the 11 is Boric in goal, the absolute nutter that he is, the holy goalie. Right back, we went for Mcginlay'S. Again, just absolute maniac and definitely knows how to get under their skin. But definitely had his moments against them. Scored a nice goal at Ibrox to really rub it in. Centre back pairing, we went for Roy Aitken and Bobo Balde. There is an interesting balance there. Left hand side of defence, we just had to do it just because we just like to watch the world burn sometimes. Stefan Mahe is in there just for being an absolute maniac that he is. What a backline. But as I said earlier on, the backline seems mental, but it seems to get a lot classier as you go further forward. Centre midfield, we've got Scott Brown and Paul McStay. Wide midfield, we went for Jimmy Johnston and Lubo. And it was King Kenny Dalglish and King Henrik Larsson up front in this one, got the vote in the end. So, well, Larsson was always going to be in the team. But yeah, Kenny Dalglish was picked as the man to partner him. So that is our Skelper 11 for this one. So yeah, we shall... yeah, there's no trivia tonight. That's it. At the start, I said there was no trivia tonight for this one. But yeah, Liam, that's us managed to construct a team. I think that team, if we could use the Boise Bustalgia time machine to bring them all back in their prime, I think that team would have no problem dusting aside Rangers tomorrow. Zero. I don't know how Ange would cope walking into that dressing room and being like, what do I do here? Like, what?
You know,
I would kind of like to see it though.
We're probably just 2 or 3 years away from this being a video game that will play on your coffee table where you can pick a team and they'll play somebody else's team, you know. But, tell you what, Phil, don't need AI when we've got you on the bus. Your knowledge of Celtic is incredible. Like, just listening to you tonight, like going in. I know you're not reading this stuff.
No, there's no notes tonight. I'm basically relying on the comments to give me suggestions, and I'm like, right, think of an example, and then it's just, yeah.
It's an absolute pleasure to be on this bus with you, mate. Like, your knowledge is unbelievable, and I really enjoy it. And you're right, it's a time machine because your memory is like, you can vividly remember every goal. And I just exceptionally cool.
It's been a pleasure doing this one tonight. So yeah, that hopefully for all the viewers watching tonight, that's us managed to hit the 2 hour mark, which is usually the sort of threshold here on Bustalgia. Hopefully that's got you ready for tomorrow. I was going to say high noon, but it's actually 12:30 tomorrow it kicks off. But the stadium will be jumping at high noon anyway, I would imagine. So yeah, I'll be there in attendance at the game. Looking forward to it. So last night, Liam, we'll just do a wee quick reminder again. I said 3-0. What was your prediction again? 3-0 as well, or?
I've gone for the Holy Trinity. Right?
Holy Trinity, okay.
Left foot and a header.
I've got this vision in my head that we're going to get a penalty tomorrow. I just feel like, I don't know. I mean, I know when Russell was talking to Mark earlier on about it, I think the words he used was it's the most, I think he said the least important game so far between us, but there still is importance to this game. There still is. I mean, I don't look at this one. I'm just basing it on, I just feel like we things that have been said recently, and I don't know, I just feel like we're going to get one. And yeah, I've hopefully, maybe I'm just desperate for the Aaron Moy celebration because they play Daddy Cool by Boney M when he scores now, and it's always a good sing along in the stadium. But yeah, just any victory will do for me. But I did say 3-0 last night. I'd like to hopefully be seeing Kyogo keep up the good run against them, because it was really grinding my gears the way they were. The way we would talk about Morelos, how he had a bad record against us, they were starting to say same things about Kyogo. So it was like, oh no, man, these players are light years apart. Come on, man. So I'm glad that he's on a nice wee run against them. Hopefully he keeps that up again tomorrow. And yeah, it would be nice if, as Russell suggested all night, if O could add to the carnage. Say we definitely put him in the same mold as Giakoumakis. That was the one thing that Big Giakoumakis was missing against them, was that goal against them. That's the only thing he needed. But no, we'll just hopefully tomorrow we'll be coming away from it. Another 3 points on the board, hopefully 12 points in front. And yeah, that's we're all excited now. So I say hopefully tonight's show, Skelper 11, we've got using the mood for it. So we will be heading off now. And tomorrow, yeah, PMP will be on. I'm not sure what the time will be. I don't know if Russell's got the day off. I know he works Saturdays usually and doesn't usually do Saturday PMPs till 6:30. But I think with the game being on, I don't know if he's got maybe the day off for it. But either way, PMP will pop up when it does at some point tomorrow. So be sure to tune into that. Sunday, we'll probably be doing the old Sunday Blarer to get you started there. There might be a Sunday sesh, who knows? Monday Club is now in a new slot. I don't know if Russell was inspired by what he maybe did in a previous life in the world of Celtic pods on that one. But yes, we have got Monday Club now has moved to lunchtimes on a Monday. And yeah, we've got the Tuesday ticket now. And yeah, there's plenty. As I said at the start of the show, if you're new to the Voice of Us, obviously hit the subscribe button and hit that bell notification, because you will quickly find out that we go live a lot. You'll be sick of the sight of us. Well, hopefully you're not, actually. But yeah, we're going to head off now, guys. And it's been fun doing this tonight. We've done it, Liam. The two of us, we made it. Like Will Smith says, just the two of us. We can make it if we try. And we did make it. And thanks to everybody in the comments that got involved tonight, putting this team together. An absolute team of maniacs, and definitely a team that Ange would have, if he fielded it tomorrow using a time machine, they'd wipe the floor with them. So yeah, we're off skate, and if you're going to the game tomorrow, enjoy it. If you're watching it on the TV, enjoy it as well. So hopefully when we're on next on PMP, we're celebrating a big Celtic victory. So catch you later, guys.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. They won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.